Chapter 26. During the entire meeting, nothing bloody happened, and both parties showed good qualities. In other words, with Natasha Romanoff, that kind of diplomatic accident would not have happened. It may also be because this is not America, and the competitive social atmosphere is not strong. Wells spent half a day showing everyone around the research base. The scientific research equipment in the base is extremely cutting-edge, to the extent that ordinary scholars cannot understand it. Afterwards, he led everyone into a central laboratory. I don't know if any of you are going in. Wells stopped in front of the silver steel gate. Behind the gate is a top-secret place, and too many outsiders cannot be allowed in. He and I. Natasha Romanoff pointed to Lin Ke. Okay, Karen, take these ladies to visit other places. Wells nodded. Let's go, everyone. A young man stepped forward with a smile. Lorna grabbed Lin Ke's hand nervously, and Lin Ke returned a reassuring look. After Sky and the others left, Wells turned around and pressed one hand on the fingerprint sensor. After successful verification, he passed the iris scan. The silver steel-colored door splits to both sides. A huge research room was revealed, with cell culture tanks on both sides and a road leading deeper. All the diseased cells of basic diseases are cultivated here, a total of 3,700 kinds. Wells laughed. We need to record the codes of their various periods and stages for life science research. No matter who it is, they will be shocked when they come here. Lin Ke is no exception. Later, Wells took a few people to the cancer area, the congenital disease area, and the normal somatic cell area. Here, it's like a Noah's Arkansas. It preserves more than 300,000 species of plants, 1 million species of animals, and nearly 10 million species of microbial living resources in the world, covering almost all known DNA, ribonucleic acid, and protein data. In the end, Wells brought everyone to the video library. If you need a genetic sample, tell Darwin. Wells withdrew the researcher's kind smile and said a little seriously, remember, your access permission is only once. Once you use it, you can't use it again. Understood. Natasha Romanoff nodded, looking at the other scholar. Darwin smiled at her. Suddenly, Natasha Romanoff felt that he hadn't heard Lin Ke's movement for a long time. Looking down, he found that his eyes were glowing with obsession, and the black pupils seemed to be embedded with a river of stars. Natasha Romanoff chuckled. Through the behavior test, Lin Ke's psychological evaluation level here is an adult. Seeing Lin Ke's innocent and pure look now, she really finds it very interesting. It can only be said that Lin Ke's childlike appearance is too deceptive. Go back to God. Natasha Romanoff patted Lin Ke's head. Lin Ke came back to his senses. Did you hear clearly just now? You only have one chance. Don't waste it. Natasha Romanoff's voice was soothing and kindly reminding. This opportunity is really hard one. I will. Lin Ke excitedly clenched his fist. If you don't learn everything, you won't go out by yourself. Wells left, leaving Darwin to supervise and teach the two how to read information. Miss Natasha Romanoff, how do I feel? The children here are the back. Darwin laughed. He found that Miss Natasha Romanoff, who had a top biology qualification, was not very interested in what he had to say. On the contrary, the kid on the side was full of interest. Hee, you guessed half right. This time, I really intend to bring my adopted son to a higher level of knowledge. Natasha Romanoff laughed. Lin Ke listened and silently gave Natasha Romanoff a sideways glance. Why didn't he know when he had such a beautiful stepmother? I see. Darwin was stunned, with a hint of envy in his eyes. A big shot is a big shot. This method is used to raise heirs, and the handwriting is so big that it is in the sky. How much data is stored in the UN gene bank? If the DNA fragment is converted into a movie, it can be played for a whole 100,000 years. Lin Ke didn't expect there to be so much data at the beginning, and he was surprised and pleasantly surprised at the same time. In addition to somatic cell data, there are programs run here by various world-class organizations. Break the genetic lock, reverse aging, eliminate cancer, etc. These are what Lin Ke wants to learn. Now that he is here, Lin Ke needs to be satisfied once and for all, to bring all the information into his mind, and make himself a master of genetic science. 3 months later, the door to the video library opens. Lin Ke walked out of it, the wisdom in his eyes almost overflowing. Natasha Romanoff, who was waiting outside, glanced inside the gate. I saw dense information changing rapidly on several large screens. With ordinary people's eyesight, they couldn't even capture the general content and could only see a blur. And each screen plays content from a different system. Natasha Romanoff is not surprised. As early as when she delivered food to Lin Ke for the first time, She was surprised once and asked questions in her heart. Could Lin Ke really be here to study? What kind of evil skill is this practicing? Can really see what's on the screen? At that time, Lin Ke laughed and said nothing, as if to say that geniuses are different from ordinary people. The invisible pretense is the deadliest. Since then, Natasha Romanoff has never cared about Lin Ke's study. Today is the last day they gave. Natasha Romanoff frowned. Lin Ke opened the highest access authority. It's 3 months from the start. The group of foreign envoys stationed here is definitely unacceptable. Today is the deadline. I know. Go back to New York today. Lin Ke nodded. Seeing his plain look, Natasha Romanoff felt moved and asked, Have you found what you want? That's right. Natasha Romanoff guessed that Lin Ke might be looking for some specific information. That's right. Lin Ke nodded calmly. Is it right? Natasha Romanoff doesn't like the ambiguity of the answer. In this case, as usual, she might want to pat Lin Ke's head and make some jokes in exchange for the desired information. But now, she doesn't intend to do that. At the moment, Lin Ke has an inexplicable aura around him. Strangers should not enter. Natasha Romanoff was throbbing in her heart, resisting the discomfort, and asked bluntly, How many did you find? All. Lin Ke replied. The countless valuable scientific research information in the United Nations Gene Bank was recorded in Lin Ke's mind abruptly. This kind of cramming of knowledge did not carry much personal understanding, nor did it digest. But that's enough. His purpose of coming here has been successfully achieved. Hold me, I'm a little sleepy. Lin Ke pulled Natasha Romanoff. Good. Natasha Romanoff readily agreed and hugged Lin Ke shortly. Immediately, Lin Ke fell asleep in her arms. Sleeping so fast? A look of surprise flashed in Natasha Romanoff's eyes. How long has Lin Ke not slept? There is a living room in the image library. She only comes here occasionally and usually has to deal with Darwin and the others, so she doesn't know the specific situation. In fact, Lin Ke didn't sleep at all. He's tired and sleepy now, but it's worth it. Chapter 27. After leaving the central area, Natasha Romanoff summoned the Three of Sky. After not seeing Lin Ke for 3 months, Simmons and Lorna almost miss him, including Sky, who is more or less worried. However, seeing that Lin Ke was sleeping, the three of them tacitly agreed not to disturb her. In the past 3 months, the experience of the three of them is also quite rich. On this island, there are masters in various fields, and there is a lot of advanced knowledge stored. The three of them have studied hard, and their professional abilities have increased. Half-year later, in the spiritual world, a vast ocean of books are displayed on the bookshelves, row upon row, with no end in sight. Countless golden rivers of knowledge surround Lin Ke, like a galaxy, like a dream. For half a year, Lin Ke studied all the time. During this period, he realized several learning methods, which greatly improved his learning efficiency. The accumulation of the entire human civilization, digested and studied for half a year, blooms at this moment their due brilliance, bursting out the light of eternal life. In Lin Ke's eyes, countless inspirations sprang up, and prompts sounded one after another. Through the accumulation of massive knowledge, you have gained insight into the deep-seated mysteries of life, and your attainments in genetics have reached the pinnacle. You have an epiphany and created bloodline supernatural ability immortality. Bloodline supernatural powers immortality. Your body cells will never age, and there is no concept of death. Through the accumulation of massive knowledge, you have gained insight into the deep-seated mysteries of life, and your attainments in genetics have reached the pinnacle. You have an epiphany and created bloodline supernatural powers infinite potential. Bloodline supernatural powers infinite potential. Every body cell and dust in your body has unlimited potential, and there is no upper limit. Through the accumulation of massive knowledge, you have gained insight into the deep-seated mysteries of life, and your attainments in genetics have reached the pinnacle. You have an epiphany and created bloodline supernatural powers impression reprint. Bloodline supernatural powers impression reprint. All the genetic abilities you have seen can be reproduced by consuming gene vitality, and the degree of reproduction depends on the consumption or relying on your rich knowledge of biology and light energy. Summing up the experience of practicing Sun Breathing Method 2.0 in the past, you had an epiphany and created Silver Superman Practice Method Youth Edition. Silver Superman Practice Youth Edition. Any light and heat will become your energy source, and the solar spectrum will make your genes have a positive transition. Currently has 0.01 fixed star power. Call. In reality, Lin Ke opened his eyes and let out a long breath. The breath was like a gust of wind, blowing the furniture in the room upside down. His face was full of excitement, and he murmured, "Finally completed the breakthrough. This epiphany is really not easy." Lin Ke himself did not expect this epiphany to bring so many benefits. In the past 6 months, he didn't waste energy to realize other abilities, but devoted himself to shaping himself into a real Superman. As for the effect, it is naturally good and amazing, and the massive accumulation directly completed a big explosion. Silver Superman can obtain abilities through imagination so as to solve various problems. It is not an exaggeration to say that he has hundreds of millions of super abilities, although I haven't reached that level of abstraction, but I have accumulated 10,000 kinds of super abilities. How can I say that I can blow up fixed star with one punch? Bloodline ability impression re-engraving allows Lin Ke to re-engrave various genetic abilities. As long as he has seen it, the genes can be imitated, which is not to say that it is not strong, and it is similar to Silver Superman. Eagle King 100 times replica. Lin Ke's genetic computing power has been increased without limit, and he is constantly strengthening his eyesight. He looks through the floor-to-ceiling windows and looks at the sky. Gradually, his vision became clearer and clearer. In broad daylight, he actually saw the moon. As the strengthening continued, he even saw craters on the moon. The eyesight keeps focusing and refocusing, and the sand and stones on the moon come into view. Finally, Lin Ke felt tired and released his ability. Once the ability is released, the lost gene vitality in the body will quickly recover. In just a few dozen seconds, the consumption just caused was made up. Sure enough, Lin Ke looked up to the sky and laughed. He didn't pay much attention, and the body repaired itself. If he took the initiative to promote body repair, how strong should he be? Straight to Wolverine. Set a small goal first. See through the universe before the age of 18. Next, Lin Ke sat cross-legged and began to practice. The Dachao Superman cultivation method is running, and all the surrounding light and heat are absorbed. The original light energy crystals quickly disintegrated and disappeared into nothingness. Lin Ke did not stop practicing because of this, but continued to immerse himself in this mysterious process. Shiguang appeared on his body. The whole person looked extremely holy. His physique continued to metamorphosis, and his body grew crazily, spanning 3, 4, 5, and finally 6 years old. The life transition does not stop until the nutrients accumulated in the past are used up. If he wanted to, Lin Ke could now grow into a monster with well-developed limbs and a brain full of muscles. But that way of growing up is obviously wrong. The current Lin Ke is an incomparably mysterious computer, and the path of evolution will be deduced and promoted on its own. Excessive interference is not good. Lin Ke got up, walked to the French windows, looked at the youthful self in the mirror, and smiled with satisfaction. According to his evolutionary age, he is now 6 years old, but he is already 1.2 meters tall. Very nice. The most important thing is to be handsome enough. Bang, bang, bang. Lin Ke, what happened? Lorna's voice came from outside the door. It's nothing, you come in. Lin Ke smirked. I don't know if Lorna can recognize me now. With a click, Lorna opened the door. Lorna covered her face and then said angrily, Who are you? Why are you wearing Lin Ke's clothes? I am Lin Ke. Lin Ke smiled slightly. Who are you fooling? Lorna muttered, feeling that the person in front of her was indeed very similar to Lin Ke, both in temperament and in the way he spoke. She put down her hand and asked uncertainly, Are you really Lin Ke? Yeah, I developed a second time, it's normal. Lin Ke nodded. Originally, I wanted to scare Xiaonizi, but seeing her panicked look, forget it. Second development? What a fool. Lorna was speechless, guessing. Lin Ke, are you awakening the second variant ability? Lenovo ability is good. Lin Ke gave a thumbs up in his heart and nodded along the way. Lorna is really smart. Then will you change back? Lorna blushed. Probably not. Lin Ke shook his head. Why is this little girl blushing? Oh, Lorna groaned. Her face became more and more red, and her eyes became strange. Lin Ke followed her gaze and looked down. Grass. It's light chicken. With a bang, Lin Ke rushed into the bedroom. Boom. The door is closed. Then there was a voice. Sell me a suit. What can Lorna do? She can only blushing. Honestly go shopping for clothes and keep thinking about the scene she just saw in her mind, and the picture is getting clearer and clearer. Chapter 28. Lin Ke came to see Hill today, so he lives on the top floor of the building. Hill's extended family lives in the Lin Ke building, and the top 3 floors are their living quarters. Not long after, Lorna came back, along with Hill. Lin Ke, Open the door. Lorna knocked on the bedroom door, eyes full of mischief. No clothes. See how Lin Ke comes out. After a few seconds, the door opened. Lin Ke was wrapped in a bath towel, looking like she had just taken a shower, which frustrated Zionese's bad thoughts. Lin Ke. Hill looked hesitantly. She recognized at a glance that this was her own child, but it was precisely because of the recognition that she hesitated. It used to be small, cute, and well-behaved, but now it is so big. For a while, Hill wanted to cry but had no tears. You give me back my little Lin Ke. Mother Hill, don't you recognize me? Lin Ke showed a bright smile like the sun shining. Child. Hill hugged Lin Ke deeply and said in relief, it's good that you're fine. Ordinary people may not be able to accept the sudden growth of their own baby, but after all, Hill has been exposed to supernatural events, so it is quite acceptable. Lorna said you awakened the mutant ability, is that true? With concern in his eyes, Hill said softly. Huh. Lin Ke acknowledged this setting. This way other people can accept it better. A few hours later, Phil Coulson arrived at the Lin Ke building. What? Phil Coulson had a mouth so long that he could hold a fist. He turned his head to look at Hill. This is Lin Ke? Hill nodded. I'm afraid I won't be able to go back to SHILD now, Uncle Phil Coulson. Lin Ke spread his hands. If he goes back like this, it will definitely cause a sensation. I will build a laboratory for Lin Ke here. Hill took advantage of the situation and said, all right. Phil Coulson nodded. Now that he is in power, he is no longer the freshman who just took office, and he does not need to report to Fury to make some decisions. If I hadn't brought Lin Ke to test it, Phil Coulson thought about it, and accidentally caught a glimpse of the indifferent Hill, and immediately dismissed the idea. There is Mother Chicken guarding. Can't afford it. Night. Hill was dealing with the official documents on the table, his brows slightly touched. Today, she has purchased tens of millions of new scientific research equipment for Lin Ke, and her cash flow is a bit tight. Although their family's capital is strong, they are all used to suppress the market, and there is not much money that can be mobilized in time. There is no way, if you want the company to grow, you can only do this. I still need to buy some equipment. If it doesn't work, I can only pay in installments. Hill sighed, feeling a headache. She also wants to buy a set of medical equipment for Lin Ke and equip a medical team. Maternal love is like a mountain. Madam, why don't we sell some shares? Beside Hill, a beautiful woman dressed as a secretary said worriedly. She has a sweet voice and beautiful yellow hair. It is Mia. After Hill became the CEO of Lin Ke Industry, he felt that he was too busy, so he invited Mia and became a confidant with one hand. Mia's ability and character are recognized by Hill. After being promoted to a confidant, he did not let himself down and grew up very quickly. Although not as good as some senior elites, fortunately, the foundation is clean and trustworthy. What do you say? The shares cannot be sold. At this time, Lin Ke walked into the room with Lorna. Hill and Mia looked over together, and Hill said, Baby, why are you here, and you still don't go to sleep? It's not because you haven't come up, so I'll take a look. Linley shrugged. Zue Sui. Hill kissed Lin Ke and felt that a lot of fatigue had been removed from his body. Lin Ke has long been used to this kind of intimacy with Western families. He looked at Mia and smiled. Sister Mia, Lin Ke, you are grown up now. You should learn to sleep alone. You don't need Sister Mia to sing you a lullaby, right? Mia teased. She only found out about Lin Ke's growing up at night, and she didn't think it was a big deal. Mutant news is flying all over the place right now. Nor is she racist. Please, you sing so badly. I'm having nightmares now, and your voice is in my head. Lin Ke gave Mia a sideways look and pouted. Mia's beautiful eyes widened slightly. She has learned bel canto, but she actually said that she sings badly. How unreasonable it is. Lin Ke, you go upstairs with Sister Mia first. Hill wants to send Lin Ke away. Obviously the sound insulation here is very good, and I don't know how Lin Ke heard the previous conversation. Yes, let Sister Mia sing you a lullaby, okay? Mia pinched Lin Ke's cheeks with a smile. You don't trust me. Lin Ke slapped Mia's claws away. Hill was stunned for a moment, remembering that Lin Ke has commercial ability, but immediately, she shook her head and sighed. Lin Ke, cash cannot be settled by commercial means. Cash is cash. Capital is capital. The two are different. There are two quickest ways to get present day. One is robbery. The second is to sell off. Isn't it just to make quick money? I have a way. Lin Ke said disapprovingly. He develops one or two gadgets at will, and when Lin Ke's industrial stock market rises, he will have money. Moreover, it happened that he ran out of light energy crystals and needed to replenish them. You can't steal electricity this time. You have a way? Hill's eyes lit up. Is there any good way for your own baby? Mom, did you forget that I'm an inventor? Lin Ke was speechless. Hill instantly became transparent, remembering how Lin Ke industry was established. My son is a genius. Almost forgot about this. No way, Lin Ke hasn't done research for nearly a year, and everyone has almost forgotten his name as a genius. Can you do it? Mia poked Lin Ke's face, very suspicious. Although she has known about Lin Ke's deeds for a long time, she has never seen Lin Ke doing scientific research with her own eyes. The corner of Lin Ke's mouth twitched. Whether I'm a puppy or not, you'll find out later. Mia blinked. Small dog? Looking back, Mia chuckled lightly. The little guy has a lot of self-esteem. Leave the money-making to me. But, Mom, you have to save some money for living in the future. Don't throw all your money in the market, Lin Ke suggested. It's not that I'm afraid of encountering a financial crisis in the future. It's just that if a person has no money, he will inevitably lose money and spend money to tie his hands and feet. She doesn't want Hill like that. Lin Ke remembers that Tony fought the Hulk and bought a building directly in order to blow it down. That's called arrogance. After finishing speaking, Lin Ke continued. By the way, isn't our company's electric energy crystallization conversion rate only 30%? Let's just mention 70%. Don't need to make technical reserves anymore. Chapter 29. It's not good. Hill frowned and said, after all, we have only been established for 1 year. If the power compression technology is stolen, our group will face too much rush. For official matters, Lin Ke industry is not afraid of SHIELD. But business matters are hard to say. Mom, that was my work when I was 2 years old. Lin Ke had to remind Hill. My own mother. Why do I keep ignoring my true ability? Could it be that he kept a low profile for too long? Hey, I've been so busy lately. Hill smiled wryly. Lin Ke's eyes were thoughtful. It seems that it is time to upgrade a wave of family members. For this aspect, he already has an idea. Ordinary methods are definitely not enough. At least one must be at the epiphany level to be worthy of one's family. Seeing Lin Ke's appearance as a young adult, Mia couldn't help but said, our family's great inventor, you haven't said what you're going to invent yet. Mia was curious what Lin Ke was going to come up with to revive his title of genius. Don't be in a hurry. Lin Ke said something, then turned to look at Hill. Mom, how many power plants do we have now? The power plant is the core facility of Lin Ke industry, the top priority. Hill nodded and said, we have built 2 power plants in total, both of which use German photovoltaic power generation, which can generate 20 million watt-hours of electricity per day. This power output is not bad. It's just not enough to consider the increasingly large enterprises in the future. Lin Ke thought for a while and said, with this amount of power generation, I think it's best to sell home appliances first, occupy the home appliance market, then build power plants, and then enter the automotive field. What is the market share of new energy home appliances? Lin Ke plans to make home appliances first. It is easy to get started in this field, and there is no need to run relationships and pull orders. If the product is good, it can quickly occupy the market. The domestic market is 5%, and the overseas market is even lower. Hill said the data without thinking. Lin Ke frowned. It seems that the cultural output is still not in place. But it doesn't matter. Just work harder. Lin Ke took a seat and began to draw sketches on the spot. New energy desk lamp, 36 kinds of brightness can be adjusted, and the service life of energy is 30 years. New energy refrigerator, 10 types of freezing zones to choose from, and the energy service life is 3 years. The efficiency and energy saving of new energy air conditioners is 3 times that of ordinary air conditioners, and the service life of energy is 3 years. New energy water dispenser, the water purification effect is 3 times that of ordinary water dispensers. New energy projector, up to 120 frames. New energy washing machine. Every time Lin Ke drew a sketch, Mia took one, and the content on it made her exclaimed again and again. At present, the acceptance of new energy products in the market is still relatively low. But if these products can really be made and then hit the market, the effect will be completely different, just like the new energy vehicles in the previous life. At first, everyone was reluctant to buy it. But if new energy vehicles are 3 times, 5 times, 10 times easier to use than old gasoline vehicles, will you buy it? Definitely buy it. Customers have always been the most ruthless creatures, but no matter what their feelings are or not. Seeing the approximate cost noted above, Mia took a deep breath and exclaimed, Lin Ke, can you really make these things? Such a low cost and such a super-level expressiveness is simply amazing. Lin Ke rolled his eyes. Now to create these things, He doesn't even need an epiphany, he just does it casually. The batteries of these products can be disassembled and replaced with other new energy appliances. Hill was keenly aware of this. Now, the selling point of new energy home appliances is that there is no socket and the standby time is long, but because of the high price, it is not accepted by most families. But with the advantage of the detachable battery, the original high price is actually cheaper, and it has become a kind of business that is sure to make money. Even if your home appliance breaks down, the internal battery can be replaced with other home appliances. Moreover, after more than a year in shopping malls, Hill's business sense has become very keen. In it, she smelled the breath of cultural value. Now, every generation of new energy batteries, perhaps in the future there will be people scrambling to collect them and become a cultural symbol. With your products here, even if it's a sample, the stock price will definitely go up. In addition to the announcement of the conversion rate of electric energy crystallization, Mia couldn't help being amazed. Her eyes brightened. With the announcement of these two pieces of news, it will not be a problem for Lin Ke Industries' market value to double tenfold. With the influx of huge funds, the factory was built in a hurry. I believe that within a few years, Lin Ke Industry will be among the top 10 or even top 3 global companies. Overlord of new energy. It's scary to think about it. Ma'am, funding is no longer a problem now, Mia said happily. Hill nodded affirmatively. She must configure a world-class laboratory for Lin Ke. The sooner things are finalized, the better. Lin Ke finished writing the last draft, put down the pen, and said with a smile. Seeing the two girls happy, he was also happy. Strange. Weren't you not interested in money before? Suddenly, Mia seemed to have discovered something and became suspicious. Even Hill looked puzzled. Knowing a child is like a mother. Hill knew Lin Ke too well, as usual. Lin Ke would not worry about the company's affairs. Even if he asked, it was just to chat with himself. Did Lin Ke suddenly grow up and become interested in money? She had to think in this direction. Men are nothing more than money, power, and s*x. No man can refuse these 3 words, not even a eunuch. I'm not interested in money. I'm interested in power. Lin Ke chuckled, looked at Hill, blinked and said, Mom, do you still remember the first time I used a power compressor? And the crystallization of power generated that time is the reason why I am so powerful now. Hill came to a sudden. At the beginning, she thought that Lin Ke's first condensed electric energy crystal had failed, so she didn't ask any further questions. She didn't expect that Lin Ke had already obtained a piece of electric energy crystal before she went home. And the power of Lin Ke's instant winter soldier may be related to that piece of electric energy crystal. Is this power harmful? Hill asked nervously. If it is harmful, she will definitely not allow Lin Ke to use it. No. Lin Ke shook his head. He is not engaged in mutation, but cultivation. Naturally, there is no harm. That's good. Hill heaved a sigh of relief and nodded in satisfaction. She didn't ask about more things, and believed that Lin Ke would tell her when the time came. When children grow up, they should have their own secrets. Chapter 30. 5 days later. After 5 days of warm-up, the news about the new product launch of Lin Ke Industry is rampant. At the press conference, there were crowds of people. There are hundreds of people from the newspaper office. No way. The news released by Lin Ke Industry this time is really explosive, not to mention brand new products, but also claim that the original conversion rate of 30% of the new energy, the current conversion rate can reach 70%. This means more environmental protection and energy saving. It also means that this company is making rapid progress. This 30% to 70%, this is simply a big jump. Originally, countless experts predicted that Lin Ke Industry would not make breakthroughs in a short time, but this news is undoubtedly the most favorable counterattack. They were so swearing at first, but now they are so embarrassing. This is a conspiracy. Jameson looked angrily at the New York Times reporter who had been invited into the infield. The cameraman immediately recorded his indignant expression. Jameson, the boss of the Daily Bugle, was once a frontline reporter, and now he is back in his old job, just to tarnish the reputation of Lin Ke Industries. He is a staunch anti-new energy old party. Since Lin Ke suggested it, he has criticized it in newspapers countless times. This earned him a lot of traffic. I believe that all New Yorkers know that the Bugle Daily is a staunch new energy opposition party. If Lin Ke Industry wants to fight a battle of proof, why didn't you invite me into the venue? Jameson made an impassioned speech and was too angry. His majestic boss of the Bugle Daily came in person. Lin Ke Industry didn't even invite him into the venue, not even an entertainer. Fortunately, he prepared a large basket of tricky questions, and now they can only rot in his stomach. Get out of the way, You are in the way, sir. At this time, a large group of people rushed over. Jameson was pushed away, and with his sharp eyes, he immediately realized that the people who came over were the invited personnel of PIM Technology. In an instant, like a shark smelling blood, he quickly chased after it. May I ask what PIM Technology thinks of this press conference? Is it smashing the jobs of oil workers? Is it destroying the natural environment? Increase social energy consumption? Jameson asked questions like a cannonball, and the cameraman behind him was also very professional and followed closely. No comment. Klaus paused, squinted at Jameson and said, "Also, sir, you have crossed the line. Do you suspect that the data released by Lin Ke Industry is falsified? This press conference is just a gimmick." Jameson was unimpressed. The hotter the action, the hotter the rhetoric, the bigger the audience. Jameson is well aware of this. Klaus shook his head and walked away. Then, several staff members ran over and pushed Jameson out of the red carpet. "See, Lin Ke Industry has used atrocities, and they dare not let me, a man of truth, report more," Jameson said angrily. Subsequently, the ratings of the news station rented by the Bugle Daily dropped sharply. Everyone can tell, he's a joker. The cameraman hesitated to speak. He felt that it would be better for this big boss to return to his newspaper industry. The Bugle Daily started out as a black material, and it couldn't be on the table in this kind of formal occasion. Quick, quick, Roxxon Energy's agent is here. Go and interview him." Jameson's eyes were burning, and he aimed at another group of invited guests. Only this time, under the intense attention of the security guards, he failed to rush into the red carpet, and the cameraman was implicated by him. So he didn't even take a key photo. Thinking of the wages that would be deducted in the future, the cameraman became furious and left with the camera on his shoulders, quitting the job. More and more agents are arriving on the scene, from all fields. At the venue, Hill, as the moderator, introduced the contents of the press conference. Mia, as an assistant, played on the sidelines. The two beautiful ladies attracted a lot of attention and added a touch of brilliance to the conference. The name of Lin Ke's industrial shuangshu is very famous in the industry. The conference was successfully held. For the entire 3 hours, the applause and exclamation of the scene were not absent once. After that, the market value of Lin Ke Industry has skyrocketed, needless to say. Night. A relatively high-end celebration banquet was held at the Lin Ke building. Most of the people who came to participate were the top management of Lin Ke Industry and celebrities from all walks of life. Classical music plays. In the center of the venue, people fluttered and danced. Lin Ke sat in a corner of the venue with a relaxed expression. Simmons and Sky were also invited, sitting aside at the moment. Both ladies were gorgeously dressed. Simmons wore a rose-red evening dress with broken diamonds. This bold and gorgeous outfit is very different from her usual personality, which is surprising. Sky was wearing a yellow satin dance dress, beautiful and flamboyant, like a leopard in the jungle. "Sky, are you wearing this because you want someone to ask you to dance?" Lin Ke looked at Sky's dance skirt style and laughed. Sky propped his chin on his fist, stared at Lin Ke with a smile, and didn't speak. Everyone in the special operations team knew about Lin Ke's growing up, except for Fitz. They will also move to the Lin Ke building later. Now that Hill has a family, he doesn't need to worry about research equipment like S.H.I.E.L.D. The two parties were originally just partners. Seeing her like this, Lin Ke stretched out his hand directly. Sky readily accepted the invitation, and the two stepped onto the dance floor. Lorna clenched her small fist angrily. She decided that she would also learn dance in the future. Simmons looked around the venue, and soon found the familiar figure. His eyes lit up, and he wanted to say hello. However, Fitz didn't seem to notice him. Holding a glass of wine, he started talking with a female celebrity. The current Fitz is successful and famous. He has resigned from S.H.I.E.L.D. and signed a contract with Lin Ke Industry. Although he is a member of the Special Operations Team, he has not returned to the Special Operations Team for a long time. I don't know how long it took. Lin Ke and Sky came back. Lin Ke noticed Simmons' indignant look and asked curiously, "Simmons, what's wrong with you?" Simmons was about to resort to Fitz's evil deeds when Lin Ke grabbed her delicate palm. "I see. It must be that I didn't ask you to dance. You are angry." After speaking, without waiting for Simmons to answer, he dragged Simmons into the dance floor. In the middle of a dance, the two happened to pass by Fitz. Fitz hugged his dance partner, that is, the older female celebrity, and stared at Simmons with rounded eyes. Why is Simmons here? And still dancing with a boy. Simmons was dressed up and put on makeup, which was stunning. It's over. Simmons will definitely misunderstand himself. He swears to God. He is really just socializing normally. Simmons noticed his gaze, snorted secretly, and pressed Lin Ke even tighter. Lin Ke's chest felt warm and soft, as if embracing a blooming flower, and there was an instant desire in her heart. Simmons' appearance is still very good, especially after taking off his eyes, the standard sweetheart of the United States. But Lin Ke still prefers the way she wears glasses. Cough, cough. That's a charming look. Chapter 31. Let's dance. Lin Ke returned to his seat. A pair of small eyes full of resentment immediately locked him firmly. Lin Ke, do you want to dance? Lorna's tone was leisurely, under the light. Her green hair was very beautiful, reflecting her like a green elf. Okay. Lin Ke shook his head slightly, feeling tricky. How should I put it? Lorna is also the first to come. You can't be left alone. After thinking about it, Lin Ke coughed lightly and said, Lorna, do you want to dance? Lorna lowered her head slightly. For someone who has never learned dance, it is really inappropriate to come to this kind of occasion. The little girl felt extremely inferior. The identity of a mutant shattered her life, making it impossible for her to have a normal life. Wait and follow my rhythm. Don't resist. Suddenly, Lin Ke came over and took her hand. Lorna froze slightly. But Lin Ke, I won't, she murmured under her breath. I said you would and you will. Lin Ke couldn't help but dragged her onto the dance floor. At the moment, brand new music just sounded. The soothing music is very melodious. Lin Ke grabbed Lorna's waist with one hand and raised Lorna's hand with the other, and Lorna's other hand was on his shoulder. Lorna's face was tense, her calves tensed. Afterwards, her body started to sway involuntarily, and her coordination with Lin Ke was perfect. What happens? Why is my body moving by itself? Lorna was shocked, and then thought of something. Little stars appeared in her big eyes, and her body gradually softened. Sensing the change in Lorna, Lin Ke smiled with satisfaction. Although gravitational traction is used in this kind of place, some are overkill. But that's what Superman originally did. Do whatever you want. The exquisite and gorgeous dance of the two attracted many people's attention. This is the third time that Kid has entered the dance floor, and the partner is different every time. Someone in the crowd muttered. He is very envious. Lin Ke's 3 dance partners are all stunning. I don't know which young master this is. The man secretly remembered Lin Ke and decided to investigate afterward. The Tonight Fengyun Center in New York is this auditorium. Those who can come here are either rich or expensive. Lin Ke may dance with 3 ladies in a row, indicating that his status is higher than that of ordinary dignitaries. Soothing music starts to die down. Lorna hangs on Lin Ke like a little sloth who hasn't recovered from it yet and is dumbfounded. Seeing this, Lin Ke chuckled and strengthened his arms. Lorna woke up and found that people had already started to leave the dance floor and hurriedly followed Lin Ke to leave. She can still walk without Lin Ke's help. Lin Ke, you are not kind. The two returned to their seats. The tip of Sky's high heels touched Lin Ke and said strangely, Rain and dew can be dipped evenly. Couldn't a pretty lady satisfy this brat? After getting along for so long, she no longer treats Lin Ke as a child. Being asked this question, Lin Ke didn't feel embarrassed and thought, it's all Superman. How can it be possible to do multiple choice questions? Of course I want it. He was speechless after watching those extraordinary movies in his previous life. The male lead is obviously so powerful, so why bother about who to choose? It's not without ability to give happiness to every loved one. I don't know if I have the honor to meet you. Just then, an elegant woman walked over. Who are you? Lin Ke raised his eyebrows. He sensed a very unusual aura from this woman. Emma Grace Frost. Emma handed over a business card and stared at Lin Ke. Lin Ke took the business card. Emma Grace Frost, CEO and chairman of Frost International Corporation, is also the headmistress of Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Every identity is amazing. Do you mind if I sit down? Emma laughed. Please. Lin Ke is very interesting. Meet Mutant again. White Queen, leader of the Hellfire Club. Emma sat on the sofa. Her legs crossed each other, revealing her greasy leg lines. Lin Ke, I remember you were 2 years old before. Why did you suddenly grow up so big? The light words spit out from Emma's mouth. I thought that Lin Ke would turn pale with shock, and she was ready to watch the show. However, Lin Ke looked calm, as if he hadn't heard her words. Next second, I don't know what your excellency White Queen is doing. With a bang, it was as if a bomb had exploded in Emma's head, causing her complexion to change drastically. How did you know? Emma was surprised, and the whole person was on alert. There are only a handful of people in the world who know their dual identities. Among them, Lin Ke should never be included. Immediately, Lorna looked slightly excited. White Queen's name is very loud in mutant. I can't tell you that. Also, answer my question. You don't come to me for no reason, do you? Lin Ke shook his head with a leisurely tone. Even the White Queen, so what? There is no mutant in this world that you can fear. Emma took a deep breath, suppressed the shock in her heart, and said, I'm a member of Hellfire Club. Do you know that?
No.
Lin Ke nodded slightly. After hearing this, Emma realized that she didn't have any secrets to speak of. She changed her expression and said, Darwin is my good friend. The brat in front of her made her a little confused. Therefore, she does not intend to make some unnecessary tentative moves. In case of provoking the other party, it may really be a waste of time to fetch water from a bamboo basket. The one in the gene bank? Lin Ke frowned slightly, thinking of the scholar from the United Nations gene bank. Well, he's a mutant. Emma confirmed Lin Ke's guess. Now, Lin Ke was really surprised. Hidden pretty well. Being able to escape one's own perception, the opponent's mutant ability is not weak. Darwin sent me. He told me about you and Lorna. Emma began to talk about the cause and effect. He has been secretly observing Lorna for a long time. Under the current environment, it is abnormal that Lorna's variant ability does not advance but retreats. You know, according to Darwin, Lorna was eating genetically modified food on the island. In this case, its variant ability is still being enhanced, which is simply against the rules. Definitely, he noticed you too, and you are very unusual. Chapter 32. So, what is your purpose? Lin Ke tapped the table with his fingers and spoke slowly. Emma's heart tightened, and she felt an inexplicable pressure. We want to know the reason behind this. The best way is to take Lorna away. This is impossible. Lin Ke shook his head. Don't even think about such wishful thinking. I also know it's impossible. Emma smiled wryly. Lin Ke can tell her details in a soft-spoken manner, which shows that the current power of Lin Ke industry is only the tip of the iceberg, and the real energy behind it must have really reached the sky. Immediately afterwards, Emma said sincerely, however, we can still cooperate. We came with sincerity. Roxanne Energy seems to be eyeing you. Their agents have been mentally shielded by me, so they should no longer pay attention to Lin Ke industry. Behind them is HYDRA, an organization you should know. Why is there Hydra everywhere? It seems that SHIELD is still not hitting hard enough. Lin Ke was really speechless. This organization is completely like a magic spell. At the same time, he was a little envious of Emma's telepathy ability, which was so convenient. Mutant wants to return to its former prosperity without eating GMOs. Lin Ke rewarded him with a peach. We know that. Emma was unmoved. Linley listened and smiled knowingly. In the mutant circle, there is no rumor about not eating genetically modified foods. It seems that the purpose of Hellfire Club is not pure. It is estimated that it is an abacus to take the opportunity to integrate forces. I thought that mutant was almost dead or injured, but I didn't expect that there was a possibility of a turnaround. Is this a plot where the villain saves the world? Similar phenomena are rare in Super English culture. I just don't know if the pros and cons of the past will join forces this time to fight against the irresistible enemy. Lin Ke was interested, but he didn't speak first, and the rhythm was well controlled. Sure enough, seeing that he didn't speak, Emma spoke up. There is no mutant in the past like Lorna, who grows fast and is very stable. Having said that, Emma stared at Lorna's eyes and became a little fiery. I won't go with you. Lorna shook her head firmly. She has always wanted to find the mutant organization, but if the price is to leave Lin Ke, she is not willing. No matter how good that group of people is, it's not as good as Lin Ke. What's more, Lin Ke is also a mutant, and she is even more intimate with her. She already considers herself part of the Hill family. There is nothing more important than a family for a sense of belonging. We didn't say we had to take you away. We just wanted to conduct a detailed test on you. Emma is very science-oriented. Otherwise, the secrets in genetically modified foods would not have been discovered. With this smart brain, even if the mutant ability is mediocre, it can stand on top of mutants' pyramids. Lin Ke secretly gave Emma a review. Then, he said directly, Lorna's rapid growth has nothing to do with her original physique, but the cultivation method I gave her. It's a showdown. Cultivation method? Emma pondered for a moment. Her eyes lit up and she said, You mean the cultivation method mentioned by the Oriental practitioners? You can understand it this way. Lin Ke nodded affirmatively. In the Marvel world, the Oriental practice world does not seem to be prosperous, and it looks like the orthodoxy has fallen. I don't know this kind of cultivation method. Can other mutants practice it? Emma said something and then said, definitely, we can pay you. Lin Ke secretly smiled, waiting for your words. Study the materials of the power of the gods. Isn't it coming? He pretended to be embarrassed and said, everyone's mutant ability is different, and the exercises are naturally different. It needs to be customized. This requires a large number of mutant gene samples, and it is a waste of my time. Emma's pupils shrank. She keenly captured the key information in Lin Ke's words. Other mutants can also be cultivated. That's enough. It's not a waste of time. You'll get our Hellfire Club friendship. Emma was slightly anxious, and then, with a twinkle in her eyes, she said, besides, you seem to be interested in mutants' gene? Emma is a real elite after all, and although she can't use telepathy to detect Lin Ke's thoughts, she can still guess something. You are very smart. Lin Ke smiled and praised, and then fell silent, as if sitting firmly on the diaryuda. Now, Emma really felt tricky. She is originally a master of psychology, and it is easy to see that Lin Ke also knows psychology, and her rank seems to be higher than her own. Is this really an imp? Emma is helpless. She is one step away from the 4th level mutant, and she cannot miss this opportunity anyway. As long as the cultivation method is effective, she can become a new 4th level mutant, and naturally become the new king of mutants. At that time, it is not impossible to call on the mutants all over the world to work for him. Tell me what you want. Emma was honestly under the knife. As he said that, he subconsciously straightened his chest. The abyss-like deep V was staggering. Lin Ke coughed lightly. Beauty tricks? He doesn't accept this trick. Real. Every time I give you a skill, you all need to complete one thing for me, plus 100 genetic samples of mutant. Definitely, I also need practitioners to cooperate with my scientific research. Lin Ke stated his conditions. Emma frowned. Mutants' genetic samples, which he has saved some. But, what if you send us to our deaths? Emma said warily. Don't worry, I'm not the kind of narrow-minded person. Lin Ke said disapprovingly. People with small bellies don't live long. I hope so, and I hope our cooperation can continue happily. Emma stood up, leaned over and held out her hand. Grand, indeed grand. Lin Ke remembered Nietzsche's famous quote. When you gaze into the abyss gazes into you. He reached out and shook hands with Emma and said with a smile, it's a pleasant cooperation. Chapter 33. Restudy the origin power of the tension group, about the skills of Hill and others. Emma left, with a swaying back, and told Lin Ke before leaving that she would bring the mutant gene tomorrow. Don't attack my people next time. Lin Ke's voice suddenly came from the mind of Emma, who had gone far away. She turned around suddenly and found that Lin Ke was chatting and laughing with Simmons and Sky, who had just woken up. The two women were already unconscious when she walked over and said the first sentence. Is this warning me? How many secrets does he have that I don't know? Emma felt a little panic and fear in her heart. Lin Ke doesn't seem to be sending messages through telepathy, but like a pure spiritual power, which is very special. Lin Ke, did I just fall asleep? Simmons looked dumbfounded. The woman fell asleep as soon as she came, and when she woke up, she found that the other party was leaving. How could there be such a coincidence? She doubted herself a little. Sky looked serious. Just now, she also fell asleep. That woman is a super ability user. Be careful when you meet her in the future. Lin Ke pointed out. Super ability? Simmons exclaimed. Well, she has the ability to control mind and is a mutant. Lin Ke spoke directly to prevent the two girls from being confused. Oh. Simmons understood and then said, Don't worry, I won't tell Director Phil Coulson about it. Phil Coulson. Wrong payment after all? The news of Lin Ke's contact with mutant is not good after all it reaches S.H.I.E.L.D. After all, Lin Ke already has a daughter of Magneto by his side, and with some other mutants, there is a feeling of momentum. Lin Ke smiled and said nothing, thinking Simmons was innocent and cute. So what if S.H.I.E.L.D. knew about it? Is there anything else you can do to yourself? Don't forget, S.H.I.E.L.D. has shares in Lin Ke Industries. What's more, the relationship between myself and Phil Coulson is not that bad. As the veteran of Hill S.H.I.E.L.D., he is still a second-generation S.H.I.E.L.D. Excluding that black stewed egg, there is no possibility of conflict between myself and S.H.I.E.L.D. That's right. Exclude that black marinated egg. Hill found out about Fury's fishing with Lin Ke later, and he was furious. So Fury hid and didn't come out. Otherwise, he would have to give him a blow. When the Lin Ke building held a banquet and countless bullish investors cheered for Lin Ke Industry, There was a new energy giant who was so devastated that he was almost driven crazy. This man is Tony. Tony was wearing a black shirt, sitting on the armchair. His eyes were blank, like a dead fish. It has been half a year since research on power compression technology. Do you know how he spent the past 6 months? Day and night research and implementation of countless whimsical ideas are just to obtain the core technology of the electric energy compressor. And every time he goes through layers of mazes and reaches the end point, he will find that this is nothing but joy, like a dream bubble. Tony definitely knew that this was the combination lock set by Lin Ke. But it doesn't matter, he never thought of giving up, and persisted for half a year. The half-year harvest is not even as valuable as the material composition analyzed by JRVIS at the beginning. At this moment, Banner walked into the room, not surprised by Tony's appearance. "Tony, I think you should give up." Banner took a cup of black coffee. He'd helped Tony, too, but it just wouldn't work. It's like asking what's out there in the universe. No one can answer this question. "You don't understand, Banner." Tony's voice was dry. After speaking, he seemed to wake up with a start. He took the cold black coffee and drank it in one gulp. Coffee is like a sore throat. Banner wouldn't understand how he felt. He never thought that he, Tony Stark, would encounter such a technical barrier one day. "MMP. Tony, something is brought back for you." Natasha Romanoff entered the room, holding the latest electrical energy compressor. This was obtained by Stark Industries as a collaborator. Although the two parties are in a competitive relationship, in order to get the power compressor, Tony can only give up some market, knock out his teeth and swallow it. "Tony, don't lose it this time. You already have a previous conviction." Natasha Romanoff pointed it out. Tony first deciphered the electric energy compression technology, not to fight Lin Ke, but to create an iron army. After that, it was more like grudge. Tony didn't speak, took the power compressor, turned around and left. "I'm fairly familiar with Hill. If you want, I'm willing to help you as a lobbyist." Natasha Romanoff frowned, not wanting Tony to continue wasting his ability. After returning from the United Nations Gene Bank, she often visited Lin Ke's house, got to know the Special Operations team very well, and also had an old friendship with Hill. It's just one step away, and it will definitely succeed this time. Hearing this, Tony paused slightly, and then continued to go deep into the laboratory. Poor Tony, if he's ever been to the East, he'll know there's a thing called Pink 60. The next day, the underground laboratory of Lin Ke building. Emma sent 100 mutant gene samples. "Before studying the exercises for you, you first show your abilities, including the one that turns into bricks." Lin Ke spoke. "Good." Emma readily agreed. She is no stranger to Lin Ke knowing about her ability. After she went back last night, she used all her energy to investigate Lin Ke's details, but found nothing. This made her fear and value Lin Ke even more. She didn't want to come to Awakening that day and find out that Hellfire Club and Frost International had been swallowed up by Lin Ke Industries. The next moment, her body turned into a diamond. Lin Ke focused his eyes and found that Emma's body surface structure was actually a layer of diamond substance. The power of the God group is really amazing. The power of the abstract realm, the physical realm, and the energy realm can all be found in mutant. Next, Emma began to cooperate with Lin Ke to conduct various tests, and 2 tubes of blood were drawn. The test took half a day. Afterwards, Lin Ke told her that she would come back to get the exercises from herself in a month. Emma didn't have any dissatisfaction with this, and left with full expectation. "I don't know if the Red Devil is in the Hellfire Club, but his teleportation ability is pretty good." After Emma left, Lin Ke murmured, "Hellfire Club disbanded once before." According to Emma, the new Hellfire Club was created by her and Darwin alone, and the specific members of the team were not disclosed. Diamond replica? Lin Ke suddenly turned into a big human-shaped diamond, shining brightly. When the White Queen turns into a diamond, she can no longer use her mind ability. "I don't seem to have such a restriction," he thought to himself. Controlled by the magnetic field, it can be activated at any time. He found that his diamondization is not as perfect as Emma, unless he consumes genetic power and actively strengthens. But that would deviate from the original intention of re-engraving. Mutant's origin power, after all, is too high, and he can't reproduce it perfectly now. Learn to supplement the knowledge base. Next, Lin Ke started the research on the mutant gene. Ask Emma to come to mutant genes. On the one hand, it is natural to study the power of the origin of the tension group, and on the other hand, it is also to create exercises for the Hill Girls. Chapter 34. 7 days later, You have a deep understanding of mutant genes and conducted a lot of experiments. Your understanding of the mysteries of life has improved to a higher level, and the Silver Superman Practice Method Youth Edition has been supplemented. 18 days later. Through your own understanding of the human body, combined with light particles, you have an epiphany and created Angel Cultivation Method. Angel Practice Method. By absorbing light energy, it can achieve the effects of life-level evolution, eternal youth, immortality, holy body, and increased negative energy resistance. 20 days later, you use the original foundation of light energy crystallization equation to introduce new ones and create light energy crystallization equation 2.0. You have reached the pinnacle of light energy science and created the light energy crystal guidance circuit. Light energy crystal guidance circuit. Engraved on the light energy crystal, it can guide energy to specific life forms inside the laboratory. The electric energy crystals are arranged neatly, and they are fed into the light energy compressor piece by piece. Today, the electric energy crystals swallowed by the optical energy compressor alone are already worth hundreds of millions. The result is 6 crystal pendants with similar styles and beautiful patterns. Lin Ke named them sun pendants. In order to avoid affecting daily life, he also coated the sun pendant with a layer of static encapsulation, which cannot be detected by ordinary electronic equipment. Night. At the family banquet, the long table was filled with dishes, which were very rich. Lin Ke took a sip of the tomato and egg soup, very satisfied with the current atmosphere. Lorna was close to him, and Hill and Mia chatted about work, sighing and complaining from time to time. Sky sits in front of the TV with a dish. Simmons finished his meal early, lay down on the sofa and drew his notebook, staring at the stock market intently. One thing happened these days. The Special Operations Squad was officially disbanded. Originally, the Special Operations Team was established for Lin Ke, and the two parties are just a cooperative relationship. As Lin Ke's industry is getting stronger and stronger, it will be a matter of time before the partnership breaks up. Phil Coulson didn't say much about it, but expressed his hope for more cooperation in the future. Simmons and Sky were scooped up early by Hill from SHIELD and became part of the Hill family. After getting along for more than a year, Hill can see that Lin Ke and the two have already established a relationship foundation. Looking at the night view of New York City, outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Lin Ke really enjoys this kind of life. In the past, he didn't care about world affairs when he started scientific research. These days, he spends most of his time researching and spending the rest of his time with his family. Lin Ke. Simmons took my living expenses. Lorna looked around and suddenly whispered to Lin Ke. What did you take it for? Lin Ke blinked, not knowing why. Lorna has been with the Hill family for the longest time. Her monthly living expenses are $100,000, and she doesn't usually buy anything. She is a little rich woman. She said she would help me with my finances. Lorna lacked confidence and whispered, "It's all lost." Lin Ke heard this and almost vomited blood. No wonder Lorna is so wronged. No wonder Simmons hid away after eating. So how do you want to punish her? Lin Ke understands that Lorna is here to sue, but he doesn't want to sue Hill. When Mother Hill is not around tomorrow, we will throw her out of the Lin Ke building and then rescue her. Lorna proposed a good idea, with a smile on her pretty face. Simmons felt a chill down his spine and quickly pulled the blanket over himself. You are a devil. Lin Ke complained in his heart. Lorna, this girl, is definitely a street material, he said speechlessly. How is your gravitational field training? Dare to play like this? That's why I want you together. Lorna speaks plausibly. This prank is too unreliable. Let Hill know. He'll kill himself. Lin Ke dared not agree to this, but it was really wrong for Simmons to lure the little girl for money, so he moved closer to Lorna's ear and whispered something. Lorna's eyes lit up and she nodded repeatedly. What are you talking about? Hill looked over at this moment. Nothing. Lorna feigned composure. Lin Ke took out a tissue, wiped his mouth and said, I have something to tell you. After finishing speaking, he stood up and said loudly, Sky, Simmons, you all come here. Hearing this, Sky turned off the TV, and Simmons also came over. Did something happen, Lin Ke? Sky asked suspiciously. Lin Ke looked a little solemn, which is not common. Well, I have something to announce. Lin Ke took out the sun pendant from his pocket, raised it high, and shook it. The girls were immediately attracted. Hill is no exception. Women are naturally unable to resist shiny and beautiful things. Seeing all the girls gathered around, Lin Ke put the sun pendant on the desk and said with a smile, This is the sun pendant for you. Choose one from each other. Simmons said at this time, Is this what you do these days? She has also been to the underground laboratory and has seen one or two related design drawings. When the girls heard this, their expressions changed a little. The sun pendant is as beautiful as any craft. What's more, it was written by Lin Ke. This is much better than the so-called famous brand. That's right, you sit down first, and then choose one. Lin Ke felt that the plates on the dining table were a bit of an eyesore, and thought to himself, it seems that when I have time, I need to study a new energy housekeeping robot or something. So formal. Mia laughed. Lin Ke smiled without saying a word, showing complacency on his face. After you know how powerful the sun pendant is, you will feel that no matter how formal it is, it can't be too formal. However, as Lin Ke's family member, the sun pendant may not be very valuable in the future, and it will be in line with his status to present the fixed star as a gift. Simmons and Sky sit down. Simmons has little stars in his eyes. After making money in stocks, she started to buy licensed goods, and her aesthetics were absolutely on the line. From her point of view, the sun pendant is definitely the top luxury class. Hill comes first. Lin Ke took the sun pendant and came to Hill's side. Hill had a gratified smile on his face. Lin Ke's gift this time is very sincere. The child has grown up. I want this. Hill didn't hesitate for long and chose a sun pendant with lacy thorns. This sun pendant looks the most noble, which is very suitable for her identity as the mistress. Lin Ke personally put it on for Hill. Then, he gently stroked Hill's forehead with his fingers and transmitted the relevant memories of Angel's cultivation method to him. Mia was surprised to see Hill pass out after putting on the sun pendant. Seeing Lin Ke approaching her, she hurriedly said, Hey, our family is not allowed to play with black tea. Boom. Lin Ke's face darkened, and he knocked her on the head. Chapter 35. Hiss, it hurts. Mia snorted. This stinky brother is really willing to do it. Choose one. Lin Ke was not in a good mood. This Miss Mia liked to tease her little bird when she was a child, but now that she is grown up, she is still full of crimson thoughts. Little pervert. Let me wake up and find out. Humph. You are dead. Mia grunted twice and took a Tai Chi-style sun pendant. Immediately, Lin Ke put it on for her. Mia closed her eyes and leaned her head against the back of the chair. Next is Sky. It is very fair that Lin Ke will be postponed according to Hill's starting position. Without the slightest hesitation, Sky grabbed a sun pendant with 3 star-edged thorns. Lin Ke put it on for her. It's Simmons' turn next. Simmons stared expectantly at the bright, heart-shaped amber pendant. However, Lin Ke skipped her seat. Simmons quickly grabbed Lin Ke and asked anxiously, Where's mine? Lorna said you owe her a debt and have agreed to mortgage the sun pendant. Lin Ke pretended to be indifferent. What? Immediately, Simon felt as if struck by lightning and said, I never said such a thing. She didn't know about the sun pendant before. How could she mortgage it? Moreover, Lin Ke actually listened to Lorna's words so easily without listening to her explanation. Too much. Simmons' eyes were red, and his eyes were filled with small pearls. How old is he? So can't help being funny. Lin Ke hurried back, and the 2 sun pendants fell in front of Simmons' eyes, and said with a speechless expression, I lied to you. The brilliant light instantly attracted Simmons. Simmons glanced at Lin Ke angrily and reached out to take it. Flash, Lin Ke waved his hand and said with a smile, But you did do something wrong. Let Lorna choose first this time. I was helping Lorna with her money. Simmons' face suddenly swelled up, and he quibbled. I regret it. Damn the stock market. Next time I must buy your bottom. Which one should I choose? Catching a glimpse of Simmons' nervous look, Lorna swayed from side to side on purpose. Simmons closed his eyes as if resigned to his fate, leaving only a small slit to peek. Seeing this, Lorna chose a cat's eye sun pendant. Yeah. Immediately, Simmons raised his hands and cheered. Holding the pendant, Lorna didn't give it to Lin Ke immediately, but asked, Lin Ke, where's yours? Tisk, it's still Shawnese who loves us. Lin Ke took out the sun pendant he was wearing and said, I definitely have it too. Simmons found that Lin Ke's pendant had the side thorns of the crown, and said angrily, Okay, you really want to rebel against Hill? Lin Ke gritted his teeth secretly when he heard this. We must find an opportunity to teach Simmons a good lesson. It's better to smash her upturned pages. After imbuing Lorna with memory, Lin Ke angrily came behind Simmons and put it on for her. His care. You hurt me. Simmons exclaimed. You have to eat less in the future, Simmons. After putting it on, Lin Ke pinched her small square face, and immediately, without waiting for her to refute, the content about Angel's cultivation method was transmitted into her mind. After about a minute, Hill opened his eyes and looked at Simmons. Although she appeared to be in a coma just now, she was not, and she could still perceive the outside world. So, what is the debt? As a patriarch, Hill is very sensitive to family conflicts. The unlucky Simmons didn't know that when she woke up, Hill would have to interrogate her again. Lin Ke, have you passed on this practice method to others? Hill looked at Lin Ke solemnly. This is what I made just for you. Lin Ke smiled lightly. Hill pressed new, and then, according to the method in memory, she turned on the energy guidance function of the sun pendant. If the angel cultivation method is a bright road, then the sun pendant is an accelerator. Then, Mia and Sky wake up one after another. The expressions of the two were different, but without exception, there was a look of firm approval in their eyes. Thanks. As soon as Mia spoke, she was interrupted by Lin Ke. Lin Ke said firmly, Sister Mia, you don't need to say thank you. And Sky, we are all one family, and we will always be together in the future. Lin Ke has an idea of creating an eternal family, just like the endless family in DC. Lorna and Simmons woke up one after another. Simmons exclaimed, Angel cultivation method. Lin Ke, how did you come up with such a thing? She simply sighed. Hill looked at Simmons and said, Simmons, don't talk about this, you know. The angel cultivation method is a set of extraordinary evolution methods. If it really spreads out, ambitious people all over the world will rob it. In the big family of 6, the most unreliable is not the youngest Lorna, but Simmons. I'm not stupid. Simmons rolled his eyes. Everyone takes him for a fool. Sky did it, and now Hill does it too. Girls who study science and engineering are very smart, okay? Hurry up and try the effective cultivation, Lin Ke urged. Although it is a skill developed by myself, it has not been measured on others after all. Good. Hill nodded and then reminded everyone. Unlock the sun pendant first, so that the entry will be faster. The initial energy released by the sun pendant is very slight, and they can adjust it by themselves when their cultivation progress has improved. Relevant information is in everyone's mind. After the 5 people were ready, they started to practice together. Lin Ke perception is fully open, observing everyone's cultivation status. Time passed bit by bit. The first to appear miraculous is Lorna. Silver light floated on her body, like a fallen star. This is life glow. The light produced during the evolution of life can be controlled. It's just that Lorna at the moment obviously doesn't have that kind of thought and is focused on practicing quietly. She felt that her body was constantly being washed, and all the cells in her body were like soaking in a hot spring, which was very comfortable. The second person who appeared with the glow of life was Mia. Lin Ke was a little surprised looking at the 2 bright silver light spot. Mia seems unusual. The powerful vitality displayed here is at least 3 times that of Lorna. The third person who appeared with the glow of life was Sky. The glow of life she emitted trembled slightly, as if she had awakened some kind of power. Obviously, the power of her inhuman race was activated during the evolution process. The fourth to appear aura of life is Hill. The fifth is Simmons. Neither of them showed anything special, nothing special. Chapter 36. That is to say, the glass of the floor-to-ceiling windows of Lin Ke building is one-way visible. Otherwise, this scene full of lights will definitely be discovered by outsiders. Lin Ke, I feel a power in my body and I want to release it. Sky stopped practicing and said with some trepidation, during the cultivation process, the power in the body has been rising, and now there is a feeling of overflowing. She had a hunch that this power would be terrifying. Don't. Lin Ke hastily stopped it. If Sky releases energy now, it is estimated that the explosion of Lin Ke's industrial new energy crystals will spread throughout New York the next day. Sky's shockwave is destructive, and it can be said that it was born to bring destruction. When the cow is batched, it can easily create an earthquake. I feel terrible. Sky gritted his teeth, desperately wanting to be released. Who can stop a bird with wings from flying? At this time, the others also stopped practicing. Sky, what's wrong with you? Hill asked, frowning. Sky's cheeks were very tangled, not painful, but definitely not happy. Hill, have you ever gone 10 days and 10 nights without going to the bathroom? Sky said with a sad face. Everyone was at a loss. Sky continued. Anyway, I need to find a place to release it now, otherwise I won't be able to bear it. What kind of tiger-wolf word is this? Mia instantly looked at Lin Ke with strange eyes. This is definitely some X side effect. In other words, Lin Ke didn't know what she was thinking. Otherwise, she would have to give her a heads up. You are such a nasty person. Okay, I'll take Sky out first and I'll be back later. Lin Ke picked up Sky with a serious face and flew out of the window. Hill hurried to the window and looked at it with his head. I saw Lin Ke soaring into the sky and soon disappeared. Hurry up, by the way. Don't hit me with energy. Thousands of meters high, Lin Ke changed into a hugging position, wrapping around Sky's slender waist from behind. Sky resisted his fear of heights, didn't look down, concentrated his thoughts, and released that special energy from his hands. Buzz buzz. The tide-like shockwave is released in a fan shape. Don't look at anything big. But at this moment, even if there is a road roller blocking the front, it will be destroyed instantly. Lin Ke was slightly surprised. I didn't expect Sky's energy level to be so high. It can only be said that it is a shockwave. Sky has mastered this power with ease, and he might not be able to directly suppress the Hulk. It's comfortable. About 3 minutes later, Sky let out a long sigh with satisfaction on his face. Then, she rolled her eyes at Lin Ke behind her. Can't you use gravity to control you through the air? Why are you hugging me? Good guy. Put down the bowl and scold your mother. Right? Lin Ke felt teased in his heart, and after a deep laugh, he let go. The exclamation drew a straight line in the sky. Sky fell so fast that his soul almost came out of fright. Whoosh! Lin Ke flew over, hugged her horizontally, drew an arc in the air, and continued to fly upwards. Little Lin Ke, you are trying to die. Sky hugged Lin Ke tightly with both hands, and angrily used insults. How dare you play yourself like this? It was hot under her just now. Do you want to do it again? Lin Ke smacked his lips. It's a pity that Sky's embarrassing appearance was not photographed. With this experience, Sky probably won't show that mouth-opening, panic-stricken look in the future. What a pity. Let me go. Sky didn't want to play this kind of horror game at all. Real? Lin Ke said in surprise. No. Sky realized that he had said the wrong thing, and immediately hugged him even tighter. Please let me go back to the room. I have a fear of heights. In this environment, people who do not have a fear of heights must also have a fear of heights. Enjoy flight, Sky. I want to take you on interstellar travel in the future. Lin Ke bumped the beauty in his arms and accelerated suddenly. Sky screamed. The vision in front of me was blurred, and New York City below seemed to be on the other side of the sky. At this moment, the world seemed to be turned upside down. People can't tell what is up and what is down. Just as Sky was getting used to it and was about to relax, Lin Ke suddenly started playing tricks. Spin, jump, dive, and even throw. Sky closed his eyes. His lips trembled, wishing he could bite Lin Ke to death. I don't know how long it took, but she got used to it. She found that no matter how fast she flew, she couldn't feel the strong wind. Finally, Sky opened his eyes, and his beautiful eyes trembled slightly. Seeing this, Lin Ke let go of Sky. Sky didn't fall, but stood in the air. Look below. It's beautiful, isn't it? Lin Ke overlooks the lights of thousands of houses in New York. Sky nodded. Fear is due to insecurity, and in the high-risk actions with rapid heartbeat, she was sure that Lin Ke could give her absolute safety. Is this flight? Fly again. Lin Ke said something, and then the two started the standard Superman fly. Don't say why you don't fly vertically, that's too weird, and it's not easy to see the scenery below. Fly over there. Sky pointed in one direction and laughed happily. Lin Ke naturally has no objection. The two played for about half an hour before starting to return. This time, Sky had a good time and really experienced the joy of flight. Hill and the others had been waiting by the window, and when they saw Lin Ke approaching, they quickly stepped aside. Finally home. Seeing Lin Ke on the ground, Hill let out a long sigh of relief. Are you all right, Sky? Simmons and others expressed concern. I made you worry, sorry, I'm fine. Sky smiled slightly. At this time, Mia found something and frowned. Sky, are you done releasing? Sky nodded. Yeah. In an instant, Mia became angry and launched a crusade against Lin Ke. Lin Ke, what did you do to Sky? Sky's pear blossoms were raining, her eyes were reddish, and she had obviously cried before. And Lin Ke smiled and looked very happy. How did you release them? Is there really a problem with the exercises? Mia is not unreasonably suspicious because she feels a warm feeling in her body, which is faintly visible. Lin Ke listened and said with dark eyes, Do you want to listen to what you are talking about? I am only 6 years old. What can I do to Sky? You can't slander yourself like this because of your usual maturity. Chapter 37. Mia asked, Why is Sky crying? Simmons also said, Yes, Sky, what's wrong with you? Sky's expression now really has a forced smile. She has always been tough. How could she show such an expression? It's hard not to be suspicious. Well, Lin Ke nodded slightly and said frankly, I took her to fly to New York. Did Sky get scared? Fly to New York? Everyone understands. Hill frowned and said, Lin Ke, don't do this next time. Flight is fun. Lin Ke expressed his innocence and said, Sky is also very happy in the future. I'm not happy. Hill, you must punish him well. Sky stared. Lin Ke is so hateful. Hey, don't wrong me. I didn't propose to go home later. You didn't even want to come back. Lin Ke called Chu Dao. Okay, don't make trouble, Sky. Tell me what happened to you earlier. Hill didn't want to see the two quarreling, so he stopped immediately. Before bickering, can we talk about the business first? Lin Ke nodded and said, That's right. Sky awakened a super ability. Shock wave. Super ability? Simmons' eyes lit up. Lin Ke nodded and said, Well, but it's very powerful, so I can't show it to you for now. I think I can give it a try. Sky smiled slightly and picked up a water glass. After such a long period of precipitation, she felt that the power in her body was much more controllable. As he said that, before anyone else could react, the water glass in his hand exploded into powder with a bang and fell with a rustle. Suddenly, an exclamation sounded. Simmons exclaimed enviously, Sky, you are amazing. As a young chemistry expert, she knew exactly how much power it took to blow up a glass like this. In fact, watching Lin Ke and Lorna flying around, she also has a heart that wants to become stronger. Ordinary people, there is no one who does not envy extraordinary power. Oh, it seems that I have the Angel Cultivation Method now, and I also have a sun pendant. That's all right. Take control of this power, Sky. Hill was as calm as ever. I don't ask my children to save the world when they have power, but please don't do anything outrageous. This is her consistent philosophy. Sky pursed her lips, feeling the warmth of the family. Hill is like a big parent, caring about every child in the big family. Sometimes, she really wanted to call Hill a mother. Actually, I think you can go to the practice room to test your strength now. Seeing everyone is a little envious, Lin Ke suggested. Although they haven't practiced for a long time, Mia and the others have already tended to evolve into high-level life forms, and their life energy level and vitality have both increased. Angel Cultivation Method is very powerful. Mia and the others work hard, and they may not be weaker than Sky in the future. In addition, there is another point that makes Lin Ke very gratified. That is, from a microscopic perspective, the bodies of the women are much purer than before they did not practice. His painstaking efforts were not in vain. Hill changed his expression, nodded and said, Okay, let's go and have a try. In the past, everyone practiced for no more than 2.5 hours. The time can be said to be very short, but she could clearly feel the changes in her body. The eyes that were a little short-sighted now see everything very clearly, and there is a refreshing feeling of transparency. Hill thought to himself, It turns out that cultivation is such a refreshing thing. I have always heard that cultivation in the East is very hard, and there are ascetic monks. All the girls were eager to try, got on the exclusive elevator, and headed towards the 4th floor. The Lin Ke building has 56 floors. The negative 4th floor is a large training room. The negative 5th floor is the laboratory. Both are hidden floors. The lights in the big training room were always on. Simmons excitedly came to a dynamometer, rubbed his fists and said, Guess how many pounds I can hit now? 100. Sky guessed. Simmons looked at Lorna. Lorna said, 130. Hill pondered, 200. Lin Ke echoed, 200. Mia said, 190. Look. Simmons smiled crookedly, like a dragon king returning to the city. The strength in the body is already eager to try. Boom. The fist landed on the dynamometer, and the value jumped wildly, finally reaching 209. Immediately, the audience was shocked. Simmons was also startled, covered his mouth and said, I used to hit 100 at most. Doesn't this mean that her strength has doubled? Simmons looked at Hill in shock. Hill, how do you know? I do physical training a lot, and I'm very sensitive to numbers. Hill stepped forward and put on his gloves. The reason why the budget is so accurate is because she felt the growing strength in her body and guessed it casually. I didn't expect to guess that it was almost inseparable. Next, it's my turn. Hill bounced twice, showing a rare look of enthusiasm. Boom. It was like a gunshot. The value table jumped wildly, and finally reached 453. Little Lorna took a step back in fright. It turned out that Hill is so strong. Even if the value is halved, there are more than 200. Later, everyone tested running speed, cardiorespiratory ability, neural response, and flexibility. It was found that the minimum comprehensive body value has doubled. This is too exaggerated. Seeing them chirping and excited, Lin Ke secretly smiled. The Marvel human race is not simple at all. When you evolve, there will be more magical ones. Now it's just an improvement in physical fitness, so I'm happy like this. In the future, if I really evolve the ability to hold the sun and the moon in my hand and manipulate the universe, I won't be able to fly into the sky happily. Lin Ke has been Superman for a long time, ignoring the feeling of ordinary people suddenly stepping into Superman. Ordinary people, let alone doubling their physical fitness, will open champagne happily even if they suddenly grow 3 centimeters taller. At this moment, Lorna moved closer to Lin Ke and whispered, "Is Sky a variant of awakening ability?" Chapter 38 The origin power of the Tenjin group is promoted. 73-38 ability choices. No. Lin Ke saw Lorna's expectation, but still shook his head. Sky's powers come from the experimental products of the Kree, the Inhumans. However, Lin Ke doesn't plan to tell Sky about the Inhumans. Sky's parents are pretty weird. The mother was taken by Hydra for research, and after surviving, she became a villain. In order to save his wife, the father sacrificed the whole village. Meeting such 3 people will only increase troubles. That's it. Lorna was a little disappointed. I thought I needed another mutant partner. She is still obsessed with it. After all, it's better to kiss each other. The next day, at noon, Simmons, who practiced all night yesterday, was sleeping soundly and didn't eat breakfast. Since becoming part of the big family, she has lived a life as a rice bug, often sleeping until noon. Suddenly, the bedroom door snapped open. Boys and girls stuck their heads out. Women go up and men go down. Lin Ke is still shorter than Lorna, and her face is more immature. Simmons was covered with a blanket, and his asterisk leaked out. "What a lazy pig," Lorna whispered. "But don't think it's over overnight. There is no need to repay the debt that Simmons cheated on her." Lin Ke put her index finger in front of her mouth, signaling her to keep her voice down. Lorna nodded, raised her hand. A green light emerged, and after finding out the feeling, she suddenly exerted force. Suddenly, Simmons flew up and stuck to the ceiling. Lorna grinned and hastily closed the door, maintaining the release of ability. Ah! Afterwards, Simmons screamed in panic for no reason. Just by listening to the voice, you can feel how terrified she is now. "Help, save me." Hill. Lin Ke. Hill and Mia went to work. Sky got up in the morning and went to practice underground, and now Lin Ke and Lorna are left in the suite. It's useless for Simmons to call it that. It's just to increase the upper limit of torture for himself. "Lorna, it turns out that you were playing tricks." Eventually, Lorna couldn't hold back her laughter and it was exposed. "Right now, there's nothing to play." The door opens. Lorna walked in with a smile. Lin Ke also had a funny look on his face. Then he saw Simmons, who was sleeping naked, dancing. Both of them were stunned, staring with wide eyes. Lin Ke ran away quickly. He couldn't afford to be provoked. Simmons' complexion was blushing visible to the naked eye, as if he was about to bleed. Lin Ke. Halfway through the bite, the tone changed. Simmons has always been a very reserved person. It happened so suddenly that no one expected it. Lin Ke thought she should wear a small underwear, but she didn't expect it to be like this. At night, Lin Ke announced that he would be in seclusion for a few days and would not show up for the time being. Compartment. Lin Ke sat cross-legged, constantly using the nutrients in his body to nourish the origin power of the celestial group. After a lot of research, he has a deeper understanding of the power of the origin of the Tenjin group. Although it is temporarily impossible to create the corresponding exercises, it can still be mentioned with the help of excellent knowledge. A few days later, the power of the origin of the God group already feels like it is about to break through. Accompanied by the last burst of energy, the origin power of the celestial God group trembled, expanding as if it had been created out of nothing, and then purified. A sublimation occurred. The original power of the God group has been cultivated by you for several years and has reached the bottleneck. With your uninterrupted stimulation, the original power of the God group has sublimated and reached the modeled level, and your life potential has greatly increased. Modeled level celestial group origin power. Originated from some great power, X ability is awakening. 1/4. Ha ha ha, Taoist, I'm done. A terrifying energy tide surged on Lin Ke's body. He opened his eyes, looked up to the sky and laughed. It's not easy. After so long of cultivating and exploring, I finally discovered a little foundation of the origin power of the celestial god group. Feeling the rising vitality, Lin Ke couldn't help but be delighted. Ordinary mutants, even if they get the power of the origin of the gods, they will become stronger. But Lin Ke is different. He's Silver Superman. The power of the origin of the gods is not addition to him, but multiplication. He is rapidly absorbing the mysteries about the origin power of the celestial god group and turning them into nutrients for growth. Then, he closed his eyes, his consciousness sank into his body, and he came to a pure white space. This space is the embodiment of the origin power of the tension group. Lin Ke looked down consciously. Below is a sea of colorful lights. Each point of light represents an ability. There are 7,338 abilities in total. With a thought in mind, Lin Ke immediately received feedback from the origin power of the celestial god group. Unfortunately, there are no advanced abilities such as alter reality and creating space. It should be the reason why the power of origin is not pure enough, Lin Ke thought to himself. Randomly, he picked the one he wanted from among the 7,338 abilities. He can now choose 3 variants of ability as his manifest power. This kind of moment cannot be sloppy. Even with Lin Ke's temperament, he couldn't help becoming slightly anxious at this moment. No way, he is currently suppressing the awakening of the variant ability. Otherwise, from the moment the power of the origin of the gods was sublimated, the mutant ability has been awakening. This kind of suppression cannot last for too long. The 7,338 kinds of abilities went through Lin Ke's mind over and over again, and it was really difficult to choose. Telepathy is mandatory. Choose it first. Lin Ke took the lead in choosing telepathy. Suddenly, a vigorous, colorful light rushed to the sky and entered Lin Ke's body from the outside world. With less pressure, Lin Ke has more time to choose. Which one to choose next? Teleportation? Get low. Perhaps, creating corresponding exercises by oneself may be very strong. What about the self-healing factor? This doesn't seem to be necessary. My current recovery speed is completely comparable to Wolverine. Not long after, Lin Ke chose the second variant, ability. Freeze. That is Iceman's ability. This is a plug-in level ability no less than telepathy, which can lower the external and internal temperature of the body at will, freeze molecules, elementalize, and even create absolute zero. Chapter 39. This ability is in the hands of Lin Ke. The upper limit is to freeze the universe and turn the universe into glass beads. And the lower limit is to freeze the world and let the planet return to the Ice Age. It can be said that this is also an ability that belongs to scholars. And Lin Ke is undoubtedly a scholar. Moreover, he also has a solid physical foundation as the energy source of the frozen ability. Time is limited. Lin Ke struggled internally and was undecided about the third variant, ability hesitation. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration, thought of something, and chose the third ability without hesitation. Duplication. Duplication ability is very ordinary. There is no depth. It is impossible to perfectly possess the ability of the ontology. But who is Lin Ke? World-class savvy owner. 1. Chi. Transformation. 3. Clear. This passage of the God of Door must be created. Lin Ke is a bit of a gambler, but it doesn't matter. Winning the young model in the clubhouse, losing, although it is a loss, it is worth a try. One more variant has not much ability, and one less variant has a lot of ability. Lin Ke comforted herself in her heart. And what if it happens? With the colorful light rushing out of the white space, Lin Ke's consciousness also returned to reality. Then, he began to digest the 3 abilities. 3 days later, your frozen ability is raised to perfection under your repeated warming, perfectly adapting to the body, and your life potential is improved. Your telepathy ability is raised to perfection under your repeated nurturing, perfectly adapted to the body, and your life potential is improved. Your frozen ability is raised to perfection under your repeated warming, perfectly adapting to the body, and your life potential is improved. The mutant ability, which was originally an ordinary mutant, stumbles and may not be able to master perfectly in a lifetime, was directly shortened by Lin Ke to a few days, and it was directly completed. All this has a lot to do with the trip to the United Nations Gene Bank. The promotion Lin Ke got that time was really too much. It is simply transporting a treasure house of human civilization. Next, Lin Ke started the development of the 3 abilities. First up is the freezing ability. In the final analysis, temperature belongs to the category of energy, and in the field of energy, Lin Ke still has a great say, and it is easy to develop new abilities. After one day, based on the freezing ability, you have repeatedly deduced and practiced to create super cold breath. Super cold breath. Enrich a large amount of heat energy in the mouth, and then transform it into ultra-low temperature in an instant, 3 days later. Based on the freezing ability, you have repeatedly deduced and practiced to create ice water steam. Ice water steam. You can change freely between ice, water, and steam. Ice form will greatly enhance your freezing ability. Water form will make you invisible, ignoring attacks from the material world. Steam form makes you bigger, gaining strength to match. 7 days later, based on the freezing ability, you have repeatedly deduced and practiced to create water world. Water world. You move instantly through the water in the air, and the moving distance depends on your perception range. 10 days later, you have a deep understanding of the frozen ability and discovered the relationship between it and life. You have an epiphany and created organic ice glacier world. Organic ice glacier world. You can permanently change the natural environment and create unintelligent ice life forms. 13 days later, your knowledge of low temperature has reached the pinnacle. Under long-term microscopic observation, you discovered the mystery of molecules. You had an epiphany and created absolute zero. Absolute zero. Control ability with absolute low temperature, freezing a space. For the time being, the 5 skills have been developed where the frozen ability can be developed. Lin Ke tested it in the training room, and the results were very good. Next, there is the development of telepathy. 7 days later, through long-term observation and exploration, you have gained insight into the mysteries of telepathy. You have an epiphany and created Spiritual World Monthly Reading. Spiritual World Monthly Reading. Anyone whose spiritual power is inferior to yours will be pulled into the spiritual world created by you. Here, the length of time can be infinitely extended, and people with weaker spiritual abilities can escape from the spiritual world. The possibilities of the world are smaller. 10 days later, on the basis of Spiritual World Monthly Reading, you think a little bit, introduce new ones, and create Spiritual World True Projection. Spiritual World True Projection. The trauma suffered by the target spiritual world will be synchronized with the physical body. 20 days later, you have discovered the connection between reality and the soul through the accumulation of a large amount of knowledge in psychology and life sciences. You have an epiphany and created spiritual fantasy, flowers in the mirror and moon in the water. Spiritual fantasy, flowers in the mirror and moon in the water. With the power of the mind as the source and the material and reality as the medium, anyone who sees your arm movements will fall into the complete hypnotic ability of sight, sense, smell, taste, touch, and meaning. You have a deep understanding of the power of the mind. With your inclusiveness, Silver Superman Training Method Youth Edition has been supplemented and improved to a higher level. With the escort of these 3 abilities, I should have no opponents in the spiritual realm. Lin Ke smiled with satisfaction. The development of psychic power has a strong feedback effect on himself. On the road to the highest evolution, it is very good to have more psychic power. He is now like a divine furnace, where matter, energy, genes, and mind are calcined and grown together. The hotter the fire, the better the forged power. Moreover, if Lin Ke is eager, he can also keep an eye on an ability upgrade, such as magnetic field control. He still practiced the original magnetism cultivation method. While accumulating magnetism, he also looked forward to gaining more insights. The fundamental method is still the cultivation method of buying Dachao. Lin Ke thought to himself. This point is not going to change. No matter what power he gained or what new insights he had, in fact, the first thing he thought of was to make up for the cultivation method of the Silver Great Super. The next step is the development of duplication ability. Lin Ke looked slightly bitter. The reason why duplication development should be left at the end. He could have foreseen, this ability is absolutely difficult to develop. Chapter 40. These days, it's not that he hasn't thought about duplication ability, but he doesn't have a clue. 10 duplications came out of Lin Ke's body, staring wide-eyed, very much in line with his current state of mind. The source of duplication ability is the origin power of the tension group, and there is a foundation, but it is not known for its strength, but for its strength. It is not easy to make fundamental changes. In fact, Lin Ke also thought of several strengthening duplication methods. But this is not what he wants. What he really wants is not the way of protection, but the way of enlightenment. Divide out 3 duplications, cultivate each one, and then merge them together when needed. This idea came up a long time ago, and it can be said to be very nice. Wouldn't it be great for duplication to squat in the sun for tens of thousands of years and then become a golden Superman directly after returning? But it is difficult to implement this idea. The first point is that Lin Ke does not allow himself to have two consciousnesses, so clones and so on are fine. The second point is that duplication is more scalable. The third point is that duplication must be able to integrate with the main body, otherwise it is just a powerful robot. The variant duplication only meets the first and second points. It's useless to think too much. Let's do it. Lin Ke is planning to continue practicing. Suddenly, there was a B************* G sound from the door of the training room. The gate made of alloy soon had a pit. Finally, the door slammed and was kicked open. Smoke billowed. Lin Ke watched Simmons with his legs back, dumbfounded. When did Simmons become so violent? In addition to Simmons, other family members were also present. Lin Ke, are you okay? Simmons hurried into the room and said anxiously. Lin Ke pointed to himself, shook his fingers, and then pointed to the door. Means, I'm fine, there's something wrong with the door. He frowned and said, why are you here? Sky glanced at Lin Ke up and down. Seeing that he was really fine, he was relieved and said, you have the nerve to say that you haven't shown up for a month. Do you know how anxious we are? Hill hugged his shoulders, frowning into plain words. Lin Ke, why don't you answer the phone? At the very beginning, Lin Ke kept in touch with them. He also solemnly asked them not to come in, saying that he was practicing in retreat. Retreat? This is a very important thing. Hearing this, Lin Ke took out his trouser pocket. The phone has been frozen into ice lumps. Seeing that, Hill frowned even deeper. What happened to this? Lin Ke doesn't want to reveal too much information about his practice, so his practice room is not monitored. Hill and the others had no idea what happened. Didn't I say that I can live without eating? Lin Ke was speechless, feeling the burden of family affection for the first time. But he didn't feel anything. Don't people live for fun? Otherwise, what's the difference with Ultron? Lorna said angrily. But you haven't been out for a month. If this continues, the oxygen in the room will be gone. This is the first time she has a small temper with Lin Ke. They discussed outside for 3 days before finally deciding to break the door. Until now, when everyone saw that Lin Ke was fine, their complexions relaxed a bit. You can actually live without oxygen. Lin Ke argued for a while, and then felt wronged, and honestly admitted his mistake. It won't be like this in the future. The eyes of the 5 girls are really overwhelming. And before I knew it, a month had passed. There are no Jazzy in the mountains, and there is no time to practice. Come out to dinner with us now. Mia was furious, and her beautiful yellow hair fluttered slightly. Quite a feeling of anger. Without you, the food won't taste good. Simmons said angrily. Do you know how strong you are now? I have been wanting to talk to Lin Ke, but Lin Ke is not here. You can't even brag at the dinner table. Lin Ke's heart was filled with warmth. He stepped forward and grabbed Hill's hand, and said emotionally, Mom Hill, I'm so touched. Thank you for caring about me outside. Mia looked disgusted. Hill heard the long-lost address, reached out to pinch Lin Ke's face, pulled it and smiled bitterly. I won't criticize you now. I know you want to become stronger and protect us, but don't be too tired. Lin Ke is good there, but sometimes he gets busy and doesn't care about anything. It's good that there are herself and Lorna. Otherwise, she is really worried that Lin Ke will become a savage. Let's go back to eat first. The food is cold. Hill uttered the old lines of Eastern parents. Well known. In the East, there is nothing bigger than a cold meal. A group of people took the elevator to the top floor. Sumptuous food and beverage spreads over long tables. By the way, Lin Ke, a person named Emma came to look for you a few days ago, and he looked for you several times. At the dining table, Hill cut a piece of steak for Lin Ke and said, Lin Ke slapped his forehead and almost forgot about White Queen. Did she do nothing to you? He asked. We told her about you, and she was very angry and wanted to fight, but was scared off by me and Sky. Lorna said lightly. Well, let her come over tomorrow. Lin Ke sighed inwardly. Calculating the time, Emma has been delayed for almost a month. Originally, I just wanted to create a practice method for her casually, but now it seems that I still need to use snacks. Hey, that's what people with a strong sense of morality are like. Emma, who do you think caused it? Lorna said, that woman is a mutant? Hill asked. Lin Ke nodded and said affirmatively. She has a background. The Hellfire Club knows it. She is the leader of it now. Hearing this, Hill was a little surprised. SHIELD doesn't have much contact with mutant matters, and the military is watching closely. but she has heard a little about Hellfire Club. After all, the mutant giants of the last era. After learning of Emma's identity, Hill didn't say anything like don't associate with her. She believed that Lin Ke would handle it well. In fact, compared to her, Lin Ke is more like the pillar of the family. The next day, Emma came to Lin Ke building, and after notifying the front desk, she walked into the elevator. The number of floors of the elevator gradually increased, and finally there were only 2 passengers left. Emma took a second look at the woman. Her red hair was hot, and she was wearing a black silk and lavender dress. The 2 women are equally outstanding. Suddenly, there was a smell of same-X repulsion in the elevator. Chapter 41. The elevator finally stopped on the 50th floor. The 2 women walked out of the elevator almost at the same time. Then, they walked to an office almost at the same time. The 2 looked at each other. Natasha Romanoff tentatively asked, "How are you?" "Hello." Emma responded and knocked on the door, feeling a little dissatisfied. "Why did you date someone else?" If it weren't for seeing that Natasha Romanoff was Lin Ke's guest, she would have wanted to use her psychic ability. Mia opened the door, and seeing these 2 beauties, she cursed inwardly, "You damn brat." Natasha Romanoff is light done and Emma is medium done. "Please come in." Mia walked into the office. Emma and Natasha Romanoff then enter. Hill sat behind his desk. Lin Ke was playing with his mobile phone on the sofa beside him. After thinking about it all night last night, he really didn't have a clue, and now he is looking at some fantasy works for inspiration. "You are here." Lin Ke dropped the phone and said with a light smile. Natasha Romanoff was not her date, but she took the initiative to invite Hill, saying that she wanted to find herself. Emma muffled, and anyone could see her dissatisfaction. "Did you miss my little mother?" Natasha Romanoff sat down beside Lin Ke familiarly and put her arms around Lin Ke affectionately. "Yes, yes, yes." Lin Ke smelled a tangy fragrance and quickly resisted. "Hill is still there." Natasha Romanoff crossed her legs, her calves were up and down, and she stared at Lin Ke with a smile on her face. This is how she treats Lin Ke, being both a child and an adult. As for the little mother, she also used it to tease Lin Ke. "It's like a beaker," Lin Ke thought. "Do you think you won't get angry because you think you're young? Be careful, I will ripen it directly, and I will give you a hard time." Giggle. Natasha Romanoff was pleased to see Lin Ke like this. Only at this moment can she see Lin Ke lose that calm posture. "Well, stop teasing him, Miss Natasha Romanoff." Mia came over with 2 cups of coffee and said to Emma, "Miss Emma, please sit down." "Forget it. I'm just here to get what I deserve." Emma snorted coldly and squinted at Lin Ke. Seeing that, Lin Ke touched his nose, looked at her and said, "Is that so? Then you can go to die." Boom. Lin Ke jumped up violently and punched him in the face. Emma's complexion changed dramatically, and her body instantly turned into a diamond. Never expected that Lin Ke would be such a contradictory person. At the moment, a punch landed on Emma. With a bang, Emma flew backwards, smashing the wall. "It hurts." Emma groaned. Obviously, masonry did not completely prevent Lin Ke's attack. Queen and mutant? That's all. Lin Ke approached step by step, grinning ferociously. "Let me go." Panic filled Emma's heart, and now she just wanted to leave. In her eyes, Lin Ke at the moment is like a troll covering the sky and the sun, making her unable to escape. "Want to leave? Don't you want to learn the cultivation method? I have already created a set of spiritual cultivation methods that belong to you. You don't want it anymore?" Lin Ke snorted. "Yes, I still have telepathy." A flash of inspiration flashed in Emma's mind. She canceled the diamondization, activated telepathy, and said in surprise, "It's Captain America." In the psychic illusion she imposed on Lin Ke, at this moment Captain America should have broken in through the window and held Hill hostage. Oh, the power of the mind is not what you use. However, Lin Ke was not affected at all and rushed forward, suppressing Emma. "Let me teach you how to use the real power of the mind." Emma moaned and gradually sank into it. Every time the soul swayed, there was a deep understanding of the power of the soul. "What's up with her?" Emma, who was sitting next to her, suddenly trembled, and Natasha Romanoff said with a puzzled look, "Didn't you come to get what belongs to you? Why did you just sit down?" "It's nothing. She is just like this, neurotic." Lin Ke suddenly smelled a fishy smell, and his expression was strange. He swears he didn't use real projection. It was all a natural reaction from Emma. It's a little punishment. Although he was wrong first, who let Emma do something to Lorna and Sky. Lin Ke is still stingy when it comes to his family. It must have been something Lin Ke did. Aside, Mia thought to herself, women weren't like this when this came here before. It's normal. Could it be controlled by Lin Ke with gravity? Not quite like it. Don't pay attention to her. Talk about your business. Lin Ke looked at Natasha Romanoff and said. Natasha Romanoff blinked and said, what can I do? Just come and see you. Do you think I believe it? Lin Ke looked like you were teasing me. It's a normal visit, but I won't make a phone call to inform you. That's right. Tony invited you to visit the Avengers base. By the way, he wants you to give some advice on the steel mech he developed. Natasha Romanoff stated the purpose of this trip. Just today, Tony gave up. After researching the latest electric energy compressor, he still didn't gain anything. Fighting CC Dafa is too scary. So he had the audacity to ask Natasha Romanoff to come and do it. Tony is an arrogant hero, but also a qualified businessman. After such a long period of loss, if there is no gain at the end, it will be a real blood loss. That's it. Lin Ke smacked his lips. Depend on. No wonder they give benefits as soon as they come. What do you think? Natasha Romanoff was full of smiles, and her black silk legs rubbed against Lin Ke intentionally or unintentionally, feeling smooth to the touch. Lin Ke, you just go with Natasha Romanoff. He'll persuade it at this time. Lin Ke has been at home too long. She is afraid of affecting her mental health. Avengers. Lin Ke pondered. Seeing this, Natasha Romanoff tapped Lin Ke's calf with high heels. Can you stop having a fever? Lin Ke was speechless, nodded and said, yes, but the development of mechs is another matter. I have no reason to help him. It just so happens that he has run out of inspiration recently, so he might as well go out for a stroll. Maybe you can meet the two big babies, Thor and the Hulk, especially the green fat. He has been coveting the power of the Hulk for a long time. In Marvel's latest setting, the cause of Banner's transformation into the Hulk is not gamma rays, but the power behind gamma rays. Under all things, OBA. This seems to be the existence of a standard OBA, but the expressiveness is not so strong. It just ruled the unborn 8th Marvel multi-universe for tens of billions of years, annihilated all life, and iterated the Marvel multi-universe to the 9th world. There are so 100 million points strong. Chapter 42. Little Lin Ke. I knew you wouldn't let my mom down. Natasha Romanoff's eyes sparkled, her face beaming with joy. She often visits and has a strong intelligence-gathering ability. It can be said that she knows Lin Ke's true scientific research level better than anyone else. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the #1 person in the past, present, and future. It's not something that can be described as a genius or evildoer, but it's so real that it makes people feel frightened. However, it is really difficult to use Lin Ke to make a move. Lin Ke is not that kind of selfless person. Generosity is only aimed at family and good friends. Originally is actually a bit idle. I don't do things that I can't do. The only weakness may be lust. We can make more use of this weakness in the future, Natasha Romanoff thought. Anyway, Lin Ke can't do anything to him. He can manipulate him at will. Let's go. Lin Ke stretched himself. Sometimes, he also felt that he was too busy. Just after finishing the retreat, he was eyeing the two Avengers again. But it's not his fault. It's entirely because there are too many ghosts in Marvel, and it's impossible not to meet them. I'm not all here for Tony. Natasha Romanoff pressed Lin Ke's shoulder, looked at Hill, and said with a smile, Hill, I feel that you are different from before. It had been 2 months since she last saw Hill. Hill's skin is more radiant than ever, and his eyes are brighter. Moreover, there is an additional temperament that makes people want to be close and obedient. Is it? Hill smiled sassily. Maybe it's because I haven't been very busy recently, so I use some makeup. This old friend is really sharp. This sharpness does not mean that she has discovered the change in herself, but her heart. Be inquisitive about changes in anything. This is rare. At least, after Hill stopped working as an agent on the front line, this sensitivity has been blunted. Natasha Romanoff looked at Mia. Is Miss Mia the same? Mia's skin was already fair, but after she practiced, she looked as crystal clear as jade. Her hair was supple and shiny, and the surrounding chroma was even brighter by 2 points. Should be. Mia chuckled. People in the company see each other every day, and they feel that it is nothing, but quietly increase the rate of return. But those who haven't seen her for a long time will definitely be surprised. Natasha Romanoff nodded silently. There is another mystery here. However, she didn't ask much. She stood up and pulled Lin Ke up, raised her eyebrows and said, Boy, let's go. Take care of Lin Ke. Natasha Romanoff, Hill said. Mia said, have fun. I promise to send it back to you safe and sound. Natasha Romanoff waved her hand and took Lin Ke away. The two left just like that. Suddenly, Mia noticed Emma, who was still sitting on the sofa. Immediately, she asked aloud, Lin Ke is gone. Why don't you go? Emma didn't respond. Just when Mia was about to touch her, Emma suddenly woke up, with the joy of revenge, fear, and the clarity of returning to reality in her eyes. Are you okay? Mia withdrew her hand, a little wary. This woman is a mutant, still worthy of vigilance. Definitely, it's not that she's scared of her. The angel practice method is naturally resistant to negative energy, mental interference, and the like, and the mental defense is full. In terms of physics, punching alloy is also very easy. The knowledge Lin Ke instilled in them is very comprehensive, including the underlying structure of the angel cultivation method, so their cultivation progress is very fast. Nothing. Please let me rest for a while. Emma leaned back on the sofa weakly, panting deeply. She has just experienced something that outsiders can hardly imagine. In the spiritual world, decades of time have passed negligently. She is pregnant with Lin Ke's child, but Lin Ke is her enemy. This is undoubtedly the ultimate humiliation. Instead of giving up on herself, she pretended to be obedient and submissive, and while living with Lin Ke, she gradually learned the secrets of spiritual power cultivation. Those days were really hard. While enduring the torment of Lin Ke's training, she also had to suppress the resentment and the slightest joy in her heart. Just when she was about to get lost, she finally figured out all the secrets of Lin Ke's cultivation. In the end, she completed the counterkill and staged a heroine's revenge scene. During the hearty practice, he sat on the throne of the king of the world and looked down at the people who were subject to him. Then, Lin Ke's voice was heard. Stupid woman, haven't you realized that your child has never been born? Everything dissipated like a dream bubble. Chung live bad empty. Emma murmured. This is a concept in Buddhism. That is, everything in the past was a false dream, and it may not be real now. Ahem. Principal Emma, you are very knowledgeable, but I think you should go. Aside, Mia cleared her throat. They still have to work. Hearing this, Emma took a deep breath and walked out of the office. Mia shrugged at Hill. This is a weirdo. After taking the elevator down to the first floor, Emma finally confirmed that this is the reality. I was played by Lin Ke before. At this moment, an elite man in a suit and leather shoes saw Emma. His eyes lit up, and he approached and said, Hello, beautiful lady, do you need any help? This lady is dressed in pure white, and the clothes are very good. She looks like a queen, and she looks like a high-class person like her. Emma narrowed her eyes and condensed a spiritual whip with a swish and slammed it on the man's face. Call me a queen. Despicable inferior man. The elite man fell to the ground and howled. Everyone looked over, and then they turned around as if they didn't see anything, and continued the original hustle and bustle. Emma raised her leg coldly, and her high heels stepped on the man's body. The flow of people automatically parted to make way for the newly promoted 4th-level mutant. Avengers Base. Main entrance. Lin Ke met Steve and Tony. Hey, little genius. Tony smiled exaggeratedly. Although this is the first time he and Lin Ke met, but the two have been clashing for almost a year now. Tony thought so. Where's Banner? Lin Ke looked around. Where did he go? Suddenly, Tony was embarrassed. Imposing Iron Man and Captain America are here. You go ask the big monster. Has the idolatry of America's kids shifted so quickly? Chapter 43. Steve liked Lin Ke very much. He thought he was a good boy at a glance and said with a smile, Banner is on vacation today, but we have notified him, and he should be back in the afternoon. Follow us in. Hee. Natasha Romanoff often mentions you. We Avengers are all very curious about you. In fact, Banner discovered that the Avengers already knew Lin Ke's name after Tony was researching electric energy compression technology. They have long thought of inviting Lin Ke over. It's just that SHIELD has always been very strict, and the application has not been approved. Wait until the afternoon. Lin Ke looked disappointed. Let me show you around the base first. I heard that you are a fan of heroes and have collected our star films. Steve smiled brightly, reaching out to touch Lin Ke's head. Lin Ke dodged. Well, not every kid loves being patted on the head. Children picked up in the ruins of Hill, genius, mutant equals poor baby. In Steve's heart, this is Lin Ke's label. Lin Ke gave Steve a dead fisheye. Collect star cards. That was the old calendar of how long ago. This is our central observation deck, where you can see the whole of New York. This is our battlesuit storage compartment. Isn't it cool? Do you want to get one? Whoa, look at what this is, a Chitauri battleship model, a one-to-one simulation. Well, it seems you don't like it very much. Along the way, Steve chattered on and on, completely treating Lin Ke as a child visiting for sightseeing. However, not only didn't he give Lin Ke any superhero shock, but he didn't hit Lin Ke lightly. Lin Ke stared at him like a childish expression the whole time. It really doesn't give me any face. Anyway, you are amazed. Is Captain America so shameless? Finally, Steve gave up and looked at Lin Ke dejectedly. Hee. Seeing Steve like this, the corners of Natasha Romanoff's mouth rose wildly. I told you a long time ago that Lin Ke is mentally mature, but you don't believe me. This reminded her of the powerlessness she felt when facing Lin Ke on the plane. Now, finally, someone can empathize with me. These are just the outermost things, Lin Ke. Do you want to see the real core of the base? At this moment, Tony spoke, his chin raised slightly. Along the way, he didn't say anything, and he was always a little embarrassed. Natasha Romanoff told me that she wanted me to help you research the steel mecha, right? Lin Ke looked at Tony and smiled. Tony quickly looked up at the sky, so he had a thick skin. Otherwise, his face would have turned red. Are kids nowadays so straightforward? I'm not interested in your toys, though. Lin Ke ignored Tony's embarrassment and shrugged. He admitted that black technology can indeed kill gods. But after all, there is no fragrance from its own evolution. I can pay you. I apply for you. Suddenly, Tony became anxious. However, Lin Ke was unmoved. Seeing this, Tony started to yawn again and said, I know, you must be afraid of seeing my creation and feel inferior, but it's okay. I'm willing to impart some knowledge to you. Teach me? This is the funniest joke I've heard this year. Lin Ke laughed out loud. Needless to say, Tony has a sense of humor. Natasha Romanoff watched from the sidelines, feeling very speechless. Tony's bad mouth is really easy to do bad things. Didn't you invite people over here? What's the matter with being so arrogant now? I have told you that Lin Ke is different from ordinary children. You still use such a superficial aggressive method? How could the other party take the bait? With his character, he may suffer in the future. Natasha Romanoff thought to herself. Just when she thought it was impossible for Lin Ke to cooperate with Tony again, Lin Ke actually agreed. Okay, I accept your challenge. Natasha Romanoff. Tony laughed wildly and said, Challenge? This is an interesting statement. Tell me, what do you want to challenge? Lin Ke shook his finger and said, We haven't made a bet yet. All of a sudden, a smile completely bloomed on Tony's face. Geniuses are arrogant. After being provoked by him, Lin Ke really fell for it. And now that the other party has offered to make a bet, isn't it right in their hands? Everyone has seen it, but it's not that I'm bullying children. Tony spread his hands, as if Lin Ke was the first to pick things up, and then said to Lin Ke, If I lose, I will hand over the technology related to the arc reactor, and if you lose, you will hand over the power compression technology, related technology. How? It's a fair bet, isn't it? Before Lin Ke could speak, Steve became dissatisfied and said with frowning, Tony. However, both Lin Ke and Tony ignored him. Lin Ke said, No, this bet is not enough. Without even thinking about it, Tony waved his hand and said, You agree. This guy is suffocating. The betting battle between the two must be around machinery and energy. At that time, Lin Ke will definitely use its core technology, that is, power compression technology. And the Avengers base is his base camp. Hey. Now, Tony is completely shameless. I'm rotten. What's wrong? Tony cheered in his heart for the big victory he was about to usher in. I remember, Lin Ke Industries is fighting a price war with Stark Industries these days, isn't it? The corners of Lin Ke's mouth curled up, and he smiled. Tony inexplicably had a bad premonition, nodded, and still said proudly, That's right. What's wrong? Lin Ke clasped his hands together and said with a cheerful smile, Well, if I win, Stark Industry will make way for Lin Ke Industry in the future. Also, seeing that you have a great reputation as Avengers, you will share information with me every time you take action in the future, lest you fight and destroy my property. Besides, you have to let me read your memory again. Tony already felt that the first two conditions were too much, and the last one made him even more furious. Read my memory? What do you mean? Tony's hair stood on end. It literally means, a little bit of mutant's little ability. Lin Ke showed a fingertip universe and said, Don't worry, I won't make you an idiot. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Tony shook his head frantically, firmly refusing. Being read into the memory by others, doesn't it mean that I have no privacy at all? Excluding this, it would be difficult for him to agree to the first two conditions. Make way for Lin Ke industry, then Stark Industry will have to face transformation, or do some remote markets that others don't want. This will be a very big blow to Stark Industries. Why can I research mass-produced steel battlesuits and even build a steel army to protect the Earth? Isn't it because of the money? Now Lin Ke wants to cut off his money. Wrong. It is to transfer the source of wealth to himself. And the Avengers action plan is all confidential. These two items alone are already too much. Chapter 44 Tony. The little brain is hot and dizzy. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed in Tony's mind, staring at Lin Ke and asking, "What if you lose? If you put such a big bet on yourself, the other party should also. If I lose, I will hand over the power compression technology to you." Lin Ke clapped his hands. Tony almost vomited blood when he heard that. "If I lose my life, I will lose half of my life. If you lose, this is it?" Not only Tony, but Steve and Natasha Romanoff on the side also twitched their mouths. Just when they thought that this gambling fight was doomed to fail, Lin Ke said with contempt on his face, "I know, you must know that your pile of scrap metal is no match for me, and you're afraid of losing your self-esteem, so you don't want to lose it. Dare to compare with me. It's okay. I'll just treat what you just said as nonsense, and I won't take it seriously." The same aggressive method, applied to Tony himself, obviously works extremely well. Tony's anger was rising visible to the naked eye, fierce and fierce. Steve felt that he couldn't let the situation develop any longer, and Tony obviously took the lead and persuaded him. "Tony, forget it if I can't beat it. I'll give the shield to Lin Ke for a while." However, Tony wouldn't be Tony if he could be persuaded. "Okay, I agree to your bet. However, I would add that if you lose, you will have to play for the Avengers for 3 years. Moreover, the content of the competition is up to me. Although a condition of 3 years has been added, it is completely out of proportion to the cost of losing, but Tony wasn't being stupid. In his own field, he has absolute confidence to surpass Lin Ke. Don't look at Lin Ke's use of technology to lock him up for nearly a year. But that doesn't mean there's much difference between the two. He believed that Lin Ke would not be able to decipher the combination lock if he allowed himself to set it up. As soon as I got back to the base, I saw Tony was crazy. This is the truest thought of Banner at the moment. "What's going on with Tony?" Banner asked Natasha Romanoff. "In the huge test field in front of me, dozens of mechanical arms are working nonstop, sparks are flying everywhere. And Tony is like a hard-working bee, with a hammer to the left and a mallet to the left." Natasha Romanoff shook her head coldly and said, "Lin Ke is here today. I know, I just came back to see that little guy." Banner smiles. Then, Tony got into a fight with him. After Banner listened to Natasha Romanoff's narration of the whole process, he looked confused. "As expected of you, Tony, you can fight so much with a child." The content of the fight between the two is very simple. To sum up in 5 words, creation competition. Within 3 days, the two sides created a mechanical creation and competed in 3 aspects: firepower, information collection, and actual combat. During this period, the two parties must create in a transparent environment and are not allowed to leave the Avengers base, and the corresponding materials will be airlifted by Stark Industries as soon as possible. Then Lin Ke is doomed? Banner was speechless. Isn't this purely pitting children? What is Tony's hero name? Iron Man. Lin Ke has nothing but a power compression technology that drives Tony crazy. And Tony has a steel battle suit as his foundation, and he is already invincible. Uncertain. Natasha Romanoff shook her head, her eyes serious. In theory, Lin Ke is indeed doomed. But Lin Ke's performance was too calm. When he heard the content of the competition, he could completely refuse. But he still agreed with a very relaxed look. "Where's Lin Ke?" Banner shook his head, only as if Natasha Romanoff had said it offhand. Natasha Romanoff listened and stepped away. Banner followed immediately. The two met Lin Ke in a mecha warehouse. This warehouse is full of idle mechas. The big ones are more than 10 meters high, and the small ones are only as big as puppies. These mechas were made when Tony deciphered the electric energy compression technology, and the estimated driving energy is the crystallization of electric energy. The only shortcoming at present is that the electric energy compression technology has not been cracked by him, and the electric energy crystallization cannot supply energy normally. It can be said that everything is ready and only owes the east wind. Seeing Natasha Romanoff and the two approaching, Steve made a silent gesture. What is he doing? Seeing Lin Ke staring at those mechs seriously, Banner whispered. Tony's making a brand new secret weapon. What's the use of you looking at his old stuff here? Have no idea. Steve shook his head. Give up on yourself? Not like. Work hard? Neither. Let's go. Suddenly, a smile appeared on the corner of Lin Ke's mouth, and he looked away from a Tyrannosaurus Rex-style mecha and said to Steve, "From a microscopic perspective, the structure of those mechas can be seen at a glance. He has decided. Just beat Tony with his own ideas. Would you like to see other works by Tony?" Steve said, "No need. For the next 3 days, Lin Ke should eat and drink. For him now, it's just a piece of cake to do 2 things, or even 1 thing at one time. Tony has been deeply involved in the field of machinery for decades, and JRVIS alone does not know how many years ahead of the Earth. So he still intends to get serious. Just take it as a relief. Through long-term observation and analysis, you have reached the pinnacle of mechanical modification technology. Your long-term observation and analysis have reached the pinnacle of material conversion technology. Through long-term observation and analysis, you have reached the pinnacle of mechanical energy extraction technology. Your long-term observation and analysis, the virtual imaging technology has reached its pinnacle. Your long-term observation and analysis, the strong magnetic field technology has reached its pinnacle. Your long-term observation and analysis, photopolymerization technology has reached its pinnacle. Mech Library. With Lin Ke snapping his fingers, the majestic psychokinesis leaned out. Mechanical creations such as tyrannosaurs, tigers, and humanoids in the field were instantly shattered. Then, they quickly aggregated and started a new assembly. You did this? Natasha Romanoff hid behind Lin Ke, looking at the mech formed in the strong wind with a shocked expression. Banner's face turned green and white for a while, as if he was about to transform into a Hulk at any moment. Lin Ke didn't even look back. Based on his understanding of Banner, this little fear should not be enough to support the transformation. In the past 3 days, in addition to preparing for the gambling fight, he also observed Banner carefully, and the basic information has been collected almost. Because of Tony's competition with electric energy compression technology, the Avengers didn't have a few good missions. So, the heroes get a little slack. Hawkeye took a leave of absence and returned to the family temporarily. Thor went back to Asgard, but can't be reached at the moment. Therefore, Lin Ke's target is only the Hulk. Chapter 45. Tony. Forget it. Lin Ke hasn't done research these days. The competition is approaching, and Steve wants to make one last effort. In the past 2 days, Lin Ke not only failed to create technological creations, but also flirted with Natasha Romanoff, which really opened the eyes of this old man. When did America become so open? Oh, it turns out that it has always been so open, and the laws of each state are different. That's all right. Impossible. This matter is not discussed. Tony bit the bread viciously, smelling of electric burn all over his body. Steve said helplessly, "He's still a kid, Tony." "Child. You said it was a child." Tony heard it, and the bread crumbs yelled wildly, "Oh, my God. Respected Captain America, then you should call me baby." Steve opened his arms, looked down at Tony and said, "If you count according to your actual age, it's like this." Tony pushed Steve away and said, "Go aside. Steve, I'm going to let him know today what the cruelty of society is." Hearing that Lin Ke didn't do anything, he didn't feel invincible, but just felt cool. At this time, a giant shadow roared past from the other end of the corridor. Steve reacted quickly and quickly pulled Tony out of the way. The giant shadow is a white fighter plane, flying out of the corridor and heading towards the green grassland in the distance. "I'll wait for you in front." Lin Ke was sitting on the wing. The words were still ringing in Tony's ears, but the fighter plane had already flown far away. In the air, the fighter plane completed its transformation and turned into a mighty giant humanoid mecha, landing heavily. "You said he didn't do anything these 2 days?" The bread fell to the ground, and Tony was dumbfounded. Tournaments are held on golf courses. The first is a firepower contest. Tony's entry is a 3-meter-high red armor, obviously modified from anti-Hulk armor, with 2 cannon barrels on his back. My piece is called anti-Lin Ke armor. What about yours? Tony rested his elbow on his red armored thigh and said with a relaxed expression, aside, "The big guy with a height of 10 meters, full of metal texture, hideous appearance, and a big sniper on his back is really bluffing. But whether it is practical or not is not determined by the file size. Shape-shifting King Kong, Decepticons, Megatron." Seeing Tony's forced calm, Lin Ke shook his head and said, "Okay, Creeper, I get it." Tony straightened his body, pointed to the forest in front of him and said, with 1 minute of fire coverage, "Whoever causes the most damage will win." Lin Ke nodded and said, "No problem. The competition items and so on have been discussed earlier." The two of them had no intention of changing their minds temporarily. "Then I'll come first." Tony puts on a holographic goggle and enters the anti-Lin Ke armor perspective. The bulky anti-Lin Ke armor ran 2 steps and then flew into the air. The 2 muzzles behind it popped out, and a large number of small Jericho missiles roared out. Boom! The earth-shattering sound rang for a full minute. The missiles of the 2 cannons just ran out. Obviously, this is all calculated by Tony. "It's your turn." Tony took off the blindfold, proudly. There is a consensus in the arms industry today. Nuclear bombs first, missiles second. Lin Ke didn't speak. Megatron on the side responded with actions, and the jet behind the back spewed out energy tail flames, and suddenly lifted into the air. It pulled out the big sniper behind it. Above the muzzle, the blue particles continued to gather, eventually forming a large blue ball with a diameter of about 10 meters. Terrifying energy rises from it, instinctively making living bodies feel uncomfortable. Steve and the others instinctively made defensive actions. "This is high-energy electromagnetic compression technology," Tony said in shock. He was really surprised and delighted at the moment. This is an advanced power application. It should be a derivative technology of electric energy compression technology. Sure enough, he did not misread the potential of this technology. Boom! The giant energy cannon flew out and landed in the distant woods. Suddenly, a mushroom cloud rose. The rocks pierced through the air and roared towards them. Their power was not small at first glance. Steve raised his shield and stood in front of the crowd. However, the flying stone stopped tens of meters away from everyone. This time, everyone looked at Lin Ke in unison. He is the only one present with this ability. Lin Ke shrugged and said, "A little mutant ability. Damn it." Tony cursed secretly. Are mutants so perverted? Since he is so strong, why is he being chased around by the officials? Tony doesn't know. That means he didn't catch up with Magneto's era. Otherwise, he wouldn't be treated any better than Wolverine. There is no suspense about the outcome of the first game. Thousands of meters of ground seem to have been plowed, and a large pit with more than 100 people appeared in the center. The power of a shot is so terrifying. The second competition is the information-gathering ability. "I surrender." Lin Ke directly raised his hand to admit defeat. Tony has JRVIS, Sky, and Satellite. There is no need to compare. Now, the score is 1-1. At the moment, everyone came to the balcony of the villa in order to better watch the game. Banner kept shaking his legs. Steve looked serious. Natasha Romanoff's eyes wandered. It can be predicted that no matter who wins or loses, it will definitely be a wonderful battle. Tony put on the blindfold, pressed his fingers on the virtual screen, and controlled the anti-Lin Ke armor to come to the field. "Start." Steve sipped. In an instant, the 2 steel monsters in the field started to act. Megatron drew his gun, and the ion beam continued to shoot from the muzzle. The anti-Lin Ke armor was overwhelmed and was quickly hit. Seeing this, the anti-Lin Ke armor fell apart, and a red and gold-colored steel armor flew out of it. Soldiers never tire of cheating. The corners of Tony's mouth curled up, and he said, "The iron armor was very flexible, and with the assistance of JRVIS, it dodged the shots one by one and flew over Megatron's head. A muzzle on the shoulder armor opened, and several miniature missiles shot out. No matter how small the missile is, it is still a missile. It is not a problem to blow up a Tiger tank. The outcome has been decided. Decepticons of such a large size, it is impossible to escape the attack of missiles. If it wasn't for caution, Tony would have taken off the blindfold by now." Bang, bang, bang. As soon as the miniature missile approached Megatron, it was blocked by a layer of translucent cover and seemed to be disturbed by something. It spun a few times randomly and then exploded. "Fuck, what is this?" Seeing this scene, Tony had a look of disbelief. Banner looked at Lin Ke in shock. He thought of something. The force field composed of strong magnetism can withstand a heavy pressure of about 30 tons and has a strong interference effect on electronic components. Lin Ke said it openly. Because the game can already be over. In the arena, Megatron's eyes flashed red, and he made an aiming gesture, aiming at the steel armor, and the light energy of the gun's muzzle converged. Megatron is not assisted by artificial intelligence. However, as long as the attack speed is fast enough, the iron armor can't hide. Light energy convergence, astral sniper. A cold mechanical sound came from Megatron's mouth. In the next second, The ray of light energy spanned hundreds of meters and hit the steel armor at a speed of microseconds. The iron armor instantly exploded into firework. Chapter 46. It's really weak, and the shockwave and overfrequency sonar haven't been tested yet, Lin Ke said murderously. Megatron attacks have two modes. One is to choose a target to attack according to the procedure, and the second is to command him remotely. The last moment was the result of his remote command. The newly created shape-shifting King Kong is still a bit clumsy. Its intelligent core is an organic matter created by Lin Ke. Organic matter, even if it has life, has no intelligence. The advantage is that it can grow and continuously strengthen the instinct and inner program. Recreational sports are over, Tony. Lin Ke looked at Tony and said, "Now I'm going to take my spoils." Tony didn't know when he had slipped to the door quietly. "I'm going to the bathroom." Seeing Lin Ke's eyes, Tony quickly stepped back several steps. Lin Ke couldn't be used to it, and Tony was caught in his hand as soon as he waved. Tony's knowledge was of great use to him. He hasn't had much contact with fields such as artificial intelligence and coding, and Tony happens to be a stepping stone. "What are you up to?" Steve at the moment didn't care that Lin Ke was a child, and he was about to attack when he came up. Lin Ke pressed Tony's head with one hand and said, "If you mess around, he might really become an idiot." Natasha Romanoff held Steve down, shaking her head slightly. Memory reading is a little trick of telepathy. In fact, Lin Ke is now a level 5 mutant, and it is the kind with 4 mutant abilities. That's the way it is. Just like a handsome guy, he looks good in any clothes. Code 0 and 1 is quite interesting. Lin Ke read the knowledge-oriented memory in a targeted manner, thinking to himself, "In a minute." The vast amount of knowledge was digested by Lin Ke, and he let go. Steve supported the limp Tony, frowned and asked, "Is Tony okay?" Before he finished speaking, Tony stood up by himself and said in surprise, "My God, I'm still alive." Lin Ke rolled his eyes. "I am not the kind of third-rate ability person." "Okay, Tony, I'm willing to take the bet." Natasha Romanoff was afraid that Tony would make trouble again, so she quickly explained. "I know." Tony looked at Lin Ke with deep fear and fear. "It's literally Trask." "Tony." Suddenly, Lin Ke called out. Tony was so startled that his back straightened. Lin Ke said with a serious expression, "I understand from your memory that you are a hero with integrity, kindness, and a sense of justice. A true superhero." Tony froze. Is this what Lin Ke said? Why doesn't he believe it? I heard Lin Ke continue to say, "You want to use the electric energy compression technology to form the Iron Legion, right? I can help you." It can be said that Lin Ke's words are not surprising. With his head buzzing, Tony asked, "Really?" Lin Ke beckoned. Megatron came over, his head parted, and a black crystal floated over. Reaching out to catch the crystal, Lin Ke said, "This is an organic substance that I accidentally discovered. It can combine with carbon, iron, silicon, and other elements to make steel a truly integrated life form and produce unique mechanical forces. I named it Tinder Source. Now, I will give you the technology related to shape-shifting King Kong, and I hope you can contribute to the cause of protecting the Earth." Tony deciphered his technology and deciphered it for nearly a year. What the hell? Lin Ke would feel sorry for himself if he didn't cheat Tony. This so-called source of fire is a variant of organic ice. In other words, its core consciousness is completely under his control. Are you kidding me? Tony was stunned, dumbfounded, and was about to be overwhelmed by the huge amounts of surprise. Lin Ke nodded. "Father." Tony knelt down and hugged Lin Ke's thigh. "What does it feel like to be thrown off a cliff and then pulled back? How does it feel to be rescued from drowning?" Tony doesn't know, but what he knew was that his current mood was definitely 100 times more turbulent than this. His life for the past year, under the shadow of Lin Ke, has been in a state of fragmentation. The competition with Lin Ke shattered his decades of life. His proud steel armor, creation and invention, mind and calculation, fell apart in front of that Decepticon. And just when he felt disillusioned and even wanted purple sand, Lin Ke unexpectedly approved him. This can be said to have reshaped his 3 views. "Tony, get up." The 3 of Steve were taken aback by Tony and quickly pulled him up. "Good guy. You are the real contrast." They had never seen Tony like this. There was a hint of surprise in Lin Ke's eyes, and he understood it immediately. Tony belongs to the kind of person who has a sensitive heart and has never lost since he was a child. It can only be said that he was bound too much by his arrogance. Now the arrogance was suddenly shattered, leaving him at a loss. Isn't it just a loss, Tony? You are too ugly. Steve reprimanded rarely. You don't understand. Tony wiped away his snot and tears. This is not a loss, but a complete loss, the kind where everything in the past is negated. Nini, don't cry. Banner comforted him and handed him a handkerchief. Nini is what Lin Ke called Tony once, and it seems really appropriate now. It's all about girls. Whoosh. Tony blew his nose hard, finally clearing his mind a little. Immediately, he blinked, realized what he had just done, and wanted to find a crack in the ground to get in. Tony wanted to say something, but couldn't. Okay, Tony. Lin Ke stared at Tony and said, I approve of your determination to protect the Earth. Thank you. Tony clenched his fist reflexively, feeling that he had received a great compliment in his heart, and it was warm. Lin Ke patted Tony on the shoulder and said with a smile, Dyson sphere, space-time compression, time shuttle, two-way foil, do you want to have these technologies? Tony's eyes brightened, and he said excitedly, I want to. Lin Ke nodded and said, I think so too. Tony, the three of Steve. You all co-authored it, and this is the result. I will stay here for a few more days, and I will teach you what I need to teach you. Lin Ke smiled, looked at Banner and said, Banner, I want to study Hulk for a few days. No problem? Well, Banner didn't expect to have his own business. His eyes rolled wildly, and he kept cruising around Megatron and Lin Ke, falling into hesitation. Chapter 47. No problem. Before Banner could speak, Tony agreed and said to Banner, Banner, this is all a contribution to human beings. You won't disagree? With a big boss like Lin Ke here, it happens to be able to cure Banner's problems. As for whether Lin Ke has a corresponding biotechnology, it still needs to be doubted. People who doubt have grass on their heads. Tony no longer regards Lin Ke as a human being, but as a god. Anyone who dares to question Lin Ke will have trouble with Tony. Fine. Ultimately, Banner agreed. 7 days later. Laboratory. Lin Ke stared at the ever-changing green blood in the glass jar, his eyes full of deduction. After a lot of tests on Banner and Hulk, he already has a deep understanding of Hulk's blood. At least on its physical and genetic level, there are no secrets at all. My replica ability can turn me into a Hulk, but anger doesn't make me stronger. So, Banner's real power is not a gene. Instead, OBA, gamma rays. I don't know how long time passed, the aura in Lin Ke's eyes continued to gather, and finally suddenly became extremely bright. Your research on gamma rays has reached its pinnacle, and you have discovered some unknown power hidden in gamma rays. You have an epiphany and created gamma rays. Introduction. Gamma ray citation. Extradite the unknown power in the gamma rays. I got an epiphany. Lin Ke took a deep breath, his expression gloomy. At this moment, he actually has some hesitation. That's right, it's hesitation. Oba, Lin Ke murmured in his heart. After all, his current strength is at most a level godfather. Is it appropriate to contact OBA now? However, not long after hesitation, Lin Ke gritted his teeth fiercely, his eyes determined. Dry. Why not? Marvel has a bunch of gods and ghosts with multiple levels of gods. What symbolizes death, what symbolizes life, and what symbolizes reality. OBA does not have any personality and thoughts, only the original desire to destroy the multi-universe, and if it wants to come to reality, it needs a host. Compared with those old Inbi, they are simply amiable. Lin Ke is not kidding. It's like eternity. From the perspective of setting, eternity represents the concrete manifestation of the sum of time in the multi-universe, and there is eternal existence in every corner of the universe. Why? Because the multi-universe is eternal originally. In other words, all numbered universes are in the belly of eternity. This alone is scary enough. Generally speaking, the eternal responsibility is to maintain and supervise the order in the universe, and will not show up easily, unless there is a major event that can endanger the multi-universe. But Lin Ke will not stop at multiple fields. He is destined to forge ahead. That being the case, why not let yourself have one more whole card? Just do what Lin Ke set out to create gamma rays. Gamma rays are a type of photon with enormous energy. One gamma ray photon contains more energy than 1,000,000 photons of visible light combined. Essentially, both light and gamma rays are types of electromagnetic waves. Because it is related to light, Lin Ke wants this ability even more. A few minutes later, a cloud of gamma rays appeared in Lin Ke's hand. That's right, hand-rub gamma rays. With Lin Ke's knowledge of optoelectronics and electromagnetism, this can be done completely. Lead. Lin Ke drank low. Immediately, the field around him changed, and the energy in his body gushed out, intertwined into a net, covering the gamma rays, forming an energy ball. Then, the ball began to vibrate and gradually turn green. A terrifying, evil, and grotesque atmosphere spreads. The breath alone seems to infect all the space. Lin Ke's perception was explored, and he wanted to analyze it. However, in the next second, this green ball of light exploded suddenly, and a large amount of green energy swarmed into Lin Ke's body. In an instant, Lin Ke's eyes, ears, mouth, and nose were filled with green light. After about half a minute, the green light dissipated. Lin Ke smiled. Gamma forces were tamer than he thought. After all, Banner can control it. There's no reason he can't. I should be considered one of the OBA's god choices now. Lin Ke clenched his fist, feeling the strength in his body, and thought to himself. In the current single universe, only him and Banner are the best candidates for OBA. There are two ways to increase gamma divine power. The first is one's own anger, jealousy, sin, and all negative energies. The second is to enter the underworld, the deepest layer of hell, where the OBA will directly possess the body. As for me, I definitely choose to practice. Time flies. 10 days passed quickly. 5 days ago, Lorna and the others came to visit Lin Ke and played for a few days. During this period, Hill and Tony signed a large number of contracts. Generally speaking, it is about the industrial transfer of Stark Industry and the cooperation with Lin Ke Industry. In addition, Tony bought 100 fire sources from Lin Ke at a price of 10 million yuan. Under Lin Ke's guidance, Tony already has a complete Iron Legion plan. Lin Ke did not go back with Lorna and the others. The Avengers base is pretty big. It doesn't hurt to have an accident or break it. It's not his house anyway. Inside the room, Lin Ke sat cross-legged, her whole body glowing green. Suddenly, you have studied the gamma divine power in depth. Combined with your understanding of the Hulk cells, you have an epiphany and created the Gamma Divine Power Cultivation Method. Gamma Divine Power Training Method. Use your own negative energy as a singular point to transform your Gamma Divine Power in the pure white spiritual world. With Lin Ke's thought, a green temple suddenly appeared in the sky. Lin Ke stepped forward and appeared on the throne inside the temple. Next second, a black vortex appeared in the space ahead, and countless negative emotions and negative energy intentionally created by Lin Ke swarmed out of it and poured into the green pool beside it. At first I thought it was difficult, but I didn't expect it to be so simple. You don't need to understand this gamma divine power at all. You can get it naked yourself. But even that took me 10 days. Lin Ke thought to himself. 3 days later, he came to Gamma Temple again. The gamma divine power in the pool has accumulated a lot. With a wave of his hand, the gamma divine power in the green pool flew out and poured into his body. With the constant infusion of gamma divine power, Lin Ke gradually mutated, and finally became a green giant with an immature face. Chapter 48. Roar. Lin Ke couldn't help roaring, his eyes full of anger and hatred. What a terrifying power. Lin Ke felt that his will was constantly falling into the abyss. This is completely a cliff-like catastrophe. Too little gamma divine power is useless for my size. Too much, and it will directly turn into a Hulk, and it will be affected unstoppably. What a troublesome feature. As the source of this ability, it's no wonder that OBA is rational. No wonder it's called under everything. After a while, Lin Ke returned to normal, with a lingering fear in his eyes. Just now, he almost lost control. That is to say, he has a Superman-like will. Otherwise, even a person of the same level will become a beast at the moment of Hulk transformation. Lin Ke's consciousness returned to reality. There is a prerequisite for epiphany. That is, the subject consciousness must be in reality. That's right. Lin Ke plans to continue practicing again. The power of gamma divine power is very important and must be mastered. The moment you become the Hulk, your strength increases 5-fold, and when you're about to lose control, it increases 10-fold. And it's an all-round increase. This will be my winning card. With this in mind, Lin Ke switched back and forth between the Hulk form and the normal form to explore the mystery. 6 days later, you took the risk of losing control and were repeatedly eroded by the divine power of Gamma, and finally found a balance point. You had an epiphany and created Superman Gamma State. Superman Gamma State. Mobilize the Gamma Divine Power, enter the Gamma State. The basic combat power will be increased by 10 times, and the combat power will increase with the use of the Gamma Divine Power. Gamma State. Open. Without hesitation, Lin Ke directly turned on the gamma state. In an instant, Lin Ke's hair turned emerald green, and energy erupted like a volcano, forming a shockwave. The house was affected and collapsed directly. The Avengers' base trembled. The energy is a bit unmanageable, but within acceptable limits. Lin Ke chuckled with confidence in his eyes. Legendary Super Saiyan? No. Be the legendary Superman. The movement here quickly attracted the attention of the Avengers. A golden red figure flew over. Tony looked at Lin Ke and asked, "What happened?" "I'm testing my strength," Lin Ke said truthfully. Gamma's divine power is indeed powerful. There is no need to say that. But he estimated that with OBA's control over the gamma power, as long as his gamma power grows to a certain scale, he will definitely be targeted. After all, people are under everything, and the negative things you have should belong to others. So he wants to set an upper limit for the gamma power in the gamma pool. Just set a 3-hour usage limit. Feeling the intensity of the consumption of gamma divine power, Lin Ke thought to himself. At this time, Steve and the others came over, and Hawkeye at the end of the holidays. I felt a sense of kinship with him, Banner said to Hawkeye. Hawkeye glanced at Banner's crotch, curled his lips. On the other side, Lin Ke also noticed that his clothes were ruined and couldn't help but be speechless. This is the case again. It seems that I have to go to Banner to learn from it. Lin Ke canceled the gamma state, and his hair returned to normal. He casually created a photon crotch for himself, looked at Tony and said, "Tony, go find me a suit." Hold on. Tony now obeys Lin Ke's words and flies away from here immediately. Lin Ke, what happened? Is it related to your research on Hulk's power? Banner stepped forward and asked eagerly. Is Lin Ke going to transform into Hulk too? It would make him feel guilty. Lin Ke nodded and said to Banner, "Banner, I can absorb the gamma energy in your body now, and then you will lose the power to become a Hulk. Are you willing?" Hearing Lin Ke's hum, Banner's eyes were lost, and he was about to apologize. But then he heard Lin Ke's words behind him. His eyes lit up, and he said happily, "You're not kidding? Hulk is the demon inside him. A demon who has killed countless people. The demon that destroyed his original life." "Definitely," Lin Ke smiled. "Then hurry up." Banner couldn't wait, as happy as a child. At the moment, he felt like weeping with joy. God, finally freed. Banner. Suddenly, Natasha Romanoff stopped Banner. "What's the matter, Natasha Romanoff?" Banner looked at Natasha Romanoff suspiciously. "Banner, do you really want to give up your power?" Natasha Romanoff frowned slightly. Without the power of the Hulk, Banner would become a normal person. In her view, this is an ignorant practice, a huge loss. Power? No, it's not power, it's a curse. Banner's eyes puzzled. Don't understand why Natasha Romanoff thinks so. Natasha Romanoff said, "You're a superhero now." Banner laughed angrily and roared. "A hero who only knows how to destroy? A hero who kills countless people? Don't be kidding me." Natasha Romanoff, I don't even dare to get angry. Natasha Romanoff was silent for a moment and said, "When will you really trust me once? What will happen if Banner becomes an ordinary person? Get married, have children, and live the life that ordinary people should have. She wants to maintain the home." "Never." Banner turned green and suddenly shouted at Lin Ke. "Lin Ke, hurry up. Please. No need to be so excited." Lin Ke chuckled, grabbed Banner's hair, and a large amount of gamma power was sucked out and entered his body. Banner was a little weak and completely became an ordinary person. Now, Lin Ke is the only OBA candidate in this single universe. This time around, there are fewer variables. I feel like I'm back to normal. Banner couldn't wait to stand up, jumping up and down, cheering loudly. "I'm back." Tony descended from the sky, reaching out and offering the clothes. Lin Ke took the clothes and put them on. Tony looked at the ecstatic Banner and said, "Banner, what's wrong with you?" "Tony, Hulk left, ha ha." Banner rushed to hug Tony. With a bang, he was hit and flew upside down, with a big bump on his forehead. Banner smirked as he rubbed his forehead to reveal blood. Tony looked dumbfounded. "Let's go. Take me to make 2 nanosuits." Lin Ke patted Tony's arm. Tony nodded blankly. Chapter 49. Laboratory. Lin Ke wanted to make nanosuits, but Tony took over the job and was very attentive. Not long ago, he combined artificial intelligence and shape-shifting King Kong. Megatron with JRVIS is like a heifer on a rocket. Awesome. Virtually any assignment and strategic objective can be accomplished. For such a powerful shape-shifting King Kong, he set up a star chain plan. That is, Let the Iron Legion establish a base in space to protect the Earth in all aspects. Definitely, this is the follow-up plan after the formation of the Iron Legion. Now counting Megatron, there are only 2 battleship-class shape-shifting King Kong. The other one is still a semi-finished product. Urgently need Lin Ke's help. Lin Ke sat aside and asked, Tony, is there no way for you to contact Thor?
No.
Tony shrugged. I guess it's Loki playing tricks again. All right. Lin Ke nodded. After a while, 2 sets of nano uniforms were manufactured, which looked good. Hey, Lin Ke, I made an Optimus Prime according to what you said, but seeing nothing, Tony handed a design drawing to Lin Ke. On it is a semi-finished composite chain knife, a 7-meter-long sword, which can be called a big killer. I've helped you run up and down, so it's okay for you to give me some pointers, right? These days, whenever Lin Ke shows his face, Tony jumps up and down, very attentive. The word Lin Ke almost occupied 90% of his face. Lin Ke shook his head unexpectedly and said, Don't rush this moment, as I said. I will give you all the relevant knowledge before I leave, night. Knowing that Lin Ke was leaving, Tony held a bonfire party, saying goodbye to Lin Ke and celebrating Banner's rebirth. Lin Ke, I will miss you after you leave, thank you. Really thank you. Banner took a bite of the chicken leg and said emotionally. Lin Ke laughed and said, Banner, why don't you go to Lin Ke Industry? You are looking for a job anyway. I will think about it. Banner nodded affirmatively. Lin Ke, I feel you have something on your mind. Suddenly, Tony stared at Lin Ke and said, What's on your mind? Lin Ke raised his eyebrows and remained silent. At this time, a new energy robot came over, holding the roasted beef shank in his hand. Natasha Romanoff cut off a piece and handed it to Lin Ke together with the plate. Actually, I can see it too. Lin Ke withdrew his hand warming the fire, took the plate, shook his head and said, Is it so obvious? He does think about things. About 1 gasification and 3 cleansing. The matter of Gamma's divine power came to an end, and he began to think about it again. Originally, I came out this time to find inspiration. If you don't mind, you can tell us about it. The flames are blazing. Natasha Romanoff has red curly hair, like a flame elf. You don't even understand. Lin Ke stuffed a piece of beef in his mouth and nodded with satisfaction. Let's take Lorna and the others to a picnic next time. And camp by the way. He hadn't camped in his previous life. Not in this life. To be honest, he kind of understood Clark. This kind of quiet and ordinary day is really quite comfortable sometimes. Natasha Romanoff was speechless. Now I know why he'll asked her to take care of Lin Ke. This baby is a genius. Natasha Romanoff said firmly. It's okay now anyway, isn't it? Hawkeye said. Maybe our IQ is not as good as yours, but sometimes fools may not be able to think of things that wise people can't think of. All right. Lin Ke nodded and said casually, I have a duplication ability. I was wondering if there is any way to make them stronger when going out, and then superimpose the power they get when going out. With that said, 3 duplications came out of his body. Instantly, there was no sound at the scene. Lin Ke, this is your mutant ability again? Natasha Romanoff was deeply shocked, took a breath and said, Lin Ke shrugged. The meaning was self-evident. Banner exclaimed, Lin Ke, can you tell me how many mutant abilities you have? Lin Ke shook his head decisively. No. All right. Banner was not disappointed and suggested, you can create a quantum entanglement device on duplication, so that your energies can be synchronized. Lin Ke shook his head and said, It's useless. What I want is to stack them up and get a permanent power increase. What I lack is not energy. What energy can power him to blow up the multi-universe with 1 punch? Swallowing 100 million suns is definitely not enough. The light of fixed star is mainly for the evolution of genes, not for energy sources. This is the underlying logic he established when he created the Silver Cultivation Method. That's it. Banner pondered. This requirement is too harsh. But he still wanted to try his best to help Lin Ke find a way. Then, he quickly scratched his ears and fished his cheeks. It's like cutting your hair off and putting it back in. The hair will become stronger. Completely violates the common sense of physics. Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye looked at each other, also unable to think of a good solution. At this moment, Tony stroked his chin and said, Why don't you think about magic? Loki used duplication to deal with it. With a whoosh, Lin Ke disappeared in place and shot straight into the sky. Tony blinked, dumbfounded. I'm not done yet. The next moment, Lin Ke appeared on the spot again and pressed Tony's temple. Lin Ke left. Tony was dumbfounded. Tony, what's wrong with you? Steve patted Tony's face. I have scent. Tony swallowed and murmured. Lin Ke flew into the sky again, with red tide on his face, gnashing his teeth. What the hell? Magic. Why didn't I think of it earlier? Lin Ke at the moment wanted to slap himself. Research every day. The truth of the universe every day. And gene energy every day. People are so stupid to study. Jingwei, call Surgeon Stephen Strange for me. Lin Ke said to a platinum watch on his wrist. This is a little toy he made after reading Tony's memory. It is several times stronger than JRVS. The screen of the watch flashed, and Strange started calling. Jingwei could hear the eagerness in Lin Ke's tone, so he omitted those cumbersome greetings. Soon, the call was connected. Hello. Strange's high voice came from the watch. Strange, I'm the director of Lin Ke Industry. Where are you now? Lin Ke said quickly. Stop kidding. Where did you get my phone? On the other end of the phone, Strange said indifferently while driving with one hand. A child who sounded immature said that he was the director of Lin Ke Industry. Hee. I'm not kidding you, Stephen Strange. Lin Ke's tone was unusually cold. Although threats are sometimes easy to screw things up, they are also the most direct and effective way of communication. Strange frowned for a moment, then said coldly, I'm on my way home. After speaking, he hung up the phone. There are exquisite skills, no need for people, even if the other party is rich. Chapter 50. Strange drove the Lamborghini into the garage. The villa looks extraordinarily luxurious and rich under the streetlights. Luxury cars and luxury houses complement each other. Strange hurried to the door, opened the door, turned on the light, and changed his shoes. Stepping into the living room, Strange finally felt a little relaxed. However, this relaxed look disappeared in an instant when he saw the person sitting on the sofa. Strange's face was stiff, and he said calmly, Who are you? A little ghost was looking at him calmly. The person who just called you. Lin Ke looked at Strange and said with a smile, You can call me Lin Ke? Okay, I know your name. Can you leave my house? Strange felt that the child named Lin Ke in front of him was very strange. In other words, this house is no longer safe. He glanced left and right, trying to find the thug in hiding. Don't look, I'm alone here. Lin Ke sensed his thoughts and said with a chuckle. Now most ordinary people are as thin as paper in front of him. Originally, the all-round evolution of the silver cultivation method made him very abnormal. After getting telepathy, it's even more perverted. He is gradually transforming into a high-dimensional creature. This trend is obvious. Therefore, he created the angel practice method, just not wanting Hill and the others to be too far behind him. What is your purpose, tell me? Strange said with a serious face. No one will have a good face after knowing that their home has been broken into illegally. The kid in front of him showed a maturity that didn't match his age. This is very alarming. If it was just a prank, he would never believe it. Strange, I saw your future. Your hands will be shattered and fractured. Lin Ke knocked on the table, and before Strange could reply, he continued, After that, you, who were not reconciled, went to the Himalayas to seek help from the magicians there in order to heal your hands. That place is called Kamart. The head of the magician is called Ancient One. You will be the next sorcerer supreme. Having said that, Lin Ke's words stopped. Naturally, he didn't say so much to Strange. But Ancient One. So Ancient One doesn't appear? Enough. Stop babbling now. Now. Get out of my house. It's not Christmas and I don't have candy for you. Strange finally had a chance to interject. His lips were like machine guns, spewing bullets non-stop. It is very capable of reciting spells at a glance. Seeing Strange approaching angrily, Lin Ke grinned. I didn't say that you would suffer comminuted fractures in both hands. Perhaps it was crushed by me. After finishing speaking, Strange floated up, and a binding force locked him firmly. Suddenly, he became terrified. It's just a pair of hands. If they are broken, they will be broken. At worst, I will give you some compensation afterwards. Lin Ke thought to himself. He still has the ability to repair a pair of hands. The moment gravity was on Strange's hands, a sparkling portal appeared at Lin Ke's feet. Lin Ke smiled and let go of Strange. Kamartosh. In a large hall with wall lamps burning. The portal opened and Lin Ke fell from the sky. There was a coffee table in front of him. An Ancient One was sitting on his knees, with a kind smile on his face. The eye of Agamotto hanging on her chest has been opened, braving green light. Ancient One, I'm here to negotiate. Lin Ke sat down cross-legged and borrowed Strange's lines. Time loop or something, although he is worthy, but he doesn't want to get involved. Ancient One is different from Strange. She has traveled to many planes. Therefore, Lin Ke also has due respect to her. You are amazing. Ancient One spoke and smiled. Every timeline, you have a completely different future. Lin Ke understood. This may be related to epiphany. Such things as epiphany are inherently full of randomness. No matter how many timelines you can observe, the current timeline is the only timeline, isn't it? Lin Ke laughed. Ancient One nodded and said with a smile, "You're right. Can you tell me how you know about strange?" "This I really can't say." Lin Ke didn't lie. He just rejected Ancient One's request. Ancient One smiles as expected in a large number of observation timelines. Lin Ke will never say anything about this matter. But this cannot deny the possibility of Lin Ke speaking. Because here is reality. Then tell me about your purpose. Ancient One said with a smile. Many times in the timeline, Lin Ke destroyed Kamartaj and became a demon king. Therefore, the eye of Agamotto on her chest is always on. I want to learn magic. Lin Ke licked his lips and said, "Can't." Ancient One nodded and smiled. For any timeline of this kind of beginning, Lin Ke's future will be in a normal direction, and in most cases it will develop in a good direction. In this way, she is satisfied. I mean all magic. Lin Ke's eyes were burning. Now that I have come to Kamartaj, the ability of an external avatar is not enough to satisfy my appetite. If you want to learn everything, just like the time you went to the United Nations gene bank. Ancient One silently wiped away his sweat, put the existing thousands of timelines into Eye of Agamotto's calculations, and got more timelines. My second test is here. Lin Ke's greed. This is the easier time to lead to the destruction of Kamartaj. It doesn't mean that if Lin Ke is rejected, Lin Ke will run away on the spot. But when Kamartaj encounters a crisis, Lin Ke will 100% call fire and robbery. Definitely, the timeline of going berserk on the spot also appeared. Ancient One smiled bitterly. But only Sorcerer Supreme can learn all the knowledge of Kamart. And you will not accept the responsibility of guarding the dimension. Lin Ke nodded and frowned. Indeed so. I can't monitor the dimensional changes all the time like Scrange in the future. But at this moment, Ancient One suddenly said, if you promise to find a new Sorcerer Supreme for Kamartaj, then I can fulfill your request. After hearing this, Lin Ke immediately burst into a sunny smile and agreed. No problem.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.